absolutely. Just you two. Not. I have a list. You're on the good list right now. It's a very short list of people I like, and it's very short.
almost paged you.
Welcome to City Council. Apologize for being the reason we're starting late, but we'll make up for it, right, Council? We'll be late on the other end. Okay. We do have a full agenda today and some things to do, kind of pre-written agenda. Gary, have there been any changes that you're aware of to the agenda before we get started, just so people know?
Yes, let's see. We have under resolutions, 4A is off.
Okay.
Also, 5C.
Yeah, we're going to hold on
and
that.
Also 4D. I think that's it.
Okay, we
might
just
be
saved a
one
few
more.
minutes. Okay. All right, well, let's start out the way we ought to. Let's start out with an invocation. We have with us Luigi Persichetti from the Unity Center of Positive Living, who's going to offer an invocation or a thought today. Afterwards, then we'd like to have a young man named Boston Esplin lead a few other young people from the Esplin family to come lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, Luigi.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to take a moment to introduce you to a mindfulness meditation and Eastern practice by ringing these Tibetan bells. And as I ring them, allow yourself to go inward And if you feel appropriate and comfortable, close your eyes and envision what you would like to see for St. George, Utah, the future of it, and for its citizens. And as you hold that vision in mind, say with me, either quietly or out loud, may all our citizens be peaceful. May all our citizens be happy. May all our citizens be cared for. And may all our citizens love one another. And so it is.
Thank you. That was very nice. Kind of calm us down a little bit, at least some of us. Thank you, Luigi. Okay, Boston and all of the Esplin grandkids. Anyone that can walk ought to come up. Awesome is right. Okay, so yeah, perfect. If you'll just stand there and tell us what to do. Just have us stand and then tell us to repeat the pledge with you, okay?
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hey, you grandkids, stay up here for a minute. Come tell us, each one of you, tell us your name and who your parents are and maybe who your grandparents are. Okay.
My name is Tad Gubler, and my mom is Elsha Gubler, my dad's Trek Gubler.
Awesome.
I am Otis Esplin, and my parents are Casey Esplin and Brad Esplin.
Awesome.
My name is Archie, and I'm a Gubler. My mom's name is Megan Gubler, and my dad's name is Drew Gubler.
My name is Boston Esplin. My mom's name is Casey Esplin, and my dad's name is Brad Esplin.
My name is Adele, and my dad's name is Drew, and my mom's name is me.
That is great. Isn't it great to have grandkids, Gary? He won't be able to talk for long here. Yeah. Oh, well. More to say about that in a few minutes, okay? Thank you, Esplin grandkids, for leading us in the pledge. Got a brand new one? Yeah. Yep. Okay, well, so let's see next. Thunder Junction, All Abilities Park. Gary, is it Shane or who's going to start this? You're going to do this? Awesome. Can you talk? Okay. We'll give Gary a minute.
Well, the city was recognized recently by the Governor's Committee on Employment of People with Disabilities. The city was awarded the 43rd Annual Golden Key Award, Community Recognition Award, and it says it's presented to the City of St. George, Thunder Junction, All Abilities Park, Gary Esplin, the city manager, in recognition of your efforts to promote awareness, to advocate and empower people with disabilities. Your contributions have made your community a better place to live for all individuals. And it's signed by all the appropriate people from the governor's office. This award somehow has my name on it. Even though I felt like I played a small part in the Thunder Junction, to me the the greatest contribution that Thunder Junction makes is to those folks with disabilities and providing an opportunity for them to work and to be part of their park. This award is in recognition of that. I would like to have Dawn come up, and she's the heart of this program, and bring all those that she would like to have part of this, and I'd like to have the mayor make that presentation to them. They are the worthy recipients of this award, not necessarily the city manager.
Dawn, yeah.
I see that train coming. I hop on and scream. Have fun. How about that? I want everybody to smile. It's all what Thunder Junction is about. Smile permanently. I know it's hard to do permanent smiles, but trust me, it's worth it. It's so worth it.
Did anyone know that Justin was here tonight?
I don't know who this man is. He says he's the mayor of St. George. I'm the president. Yeah, St. George. It's the only place to live.
Sign this guy up. Oh, we already did.
Oh, everybody smile for the officer. He'll give you a coin or arrest you. He gave me a free ticket to get arrested. So just join him. Right. Smile, everyone.
Smile. Okay. You're not saying anything.
I have Justin.
No, don't let Dawn do that. That's a bad boss.
There's a gorgeous little, I love awards like this. They're just pretty, you know. Kind of, isn't that nice, the color in there? And it's called the Golden Key, as Gary said, Community Recognition Award. And I think actually it's pretty fitting to have Gary Esplin's name on it. What's that? Yeah, that's right. So we'll work on it. So for the minute, we'll just pretend, and we'll have to give this to you.
What?
Well, it's gonna go to Gary.
I'm kidding. I want everyone to know that's my mom back there. That's why I'm so loud.
And then there's a really nice certificate, which, again, I think we frame and put somewhere. You need to hear this, Christina? Okay.
I do.
Do you need to hear it too, Justin? All right. Anyway, I think this we could maintain somewhere, you know, in the Parks Department. But really, anything you'd like to say? You've got some pretty neat guests here. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about who's here?
Okay.
Talk into this,
Oh,
and let me hold this for you.
I feel like Vanna though.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
pick the letter. I'll pick O.
Okay. Oh my gosh. So we have some of our volunteers. We have, and Terry, well, he never left the city. He's been with the city for many years. But we have some of our volunteers that have been part of this from the very, very beginning. They drive the train. They give us their input. Sorry. And then we have Scotty and we have John here. They're two of our staff employees, and they help with the tokens. And Scotty gives us he's our fixer-upper man, so we kind of give him odd duties out there. And then Miss Emily is our department admin. She runs the ship nice and smooth for us. And then this is Maria. She is our new lead worker out there, so I'm training her and I'm working on my delegation skills to her. So, and then we have Justin. He's our entertainment. So without them, they've done a fabulous job. And honestly, all of us have been together since the very beginnings, minus a few people. So since September of 2016, we've all been together, and it's been a learning curve, but it's been interesting. So I appreciate the opportunity for that.
And could I ask everyone to stand in a flutter, please?
No,
Well, you can ask.
No.
Could everyone please stand in a flutter?
But thank you to each one of you. You know, there are different roles that we play. You know, we need people with vision, and
I'm a vision.
are you a visionary?
I'm a
You're a vision of something. But we also need people that then, once it's built, once it's become reality, that really make it work. So thank you for everything you do, and this is going to remain, I believe, really a centerpiece of St. George and everything that we kind of strive to be and want to be around the country. So thank you for your role in it, each one of you, and we'd like to shake your hand as you go this
We'd
way.
like to thank John Cash too.
Okay.
He saw the train coming.
He sure did.
Awesome.
That's awesome, Justin. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to, hey, it's good to meet a vision. Awesome.
Just wish you'd be a little more enthusiastic.
Thank you so much, buddy. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks for all you've done. Thank you so much. Bad timing to have that on this agenda.
Hey, Gary. You need to come shake Dawn's hand. Dawn. She might need a hug. Seriously, folks, we do a lot of cool things in St. George, but that has to be one of the coolest, if not the coolest. So thank you, Gary and Kent Perkins in particular for being the visionaries, and to everyone else for making that dream become reality. Okay. What's next? Nope. We got another thing, but I might need to get my glasses. Oh, there it is. So I have a little proclamation I need to read, Council, if you'll be okay with this for a minute. And any signs that want to go up during this, you can. This is a proclamation. Whereas Gary S. Esplin was first hired at the City of St. George as a part-time administrative intern in the summer of 1975. I was 10 years old, Gary, but, you know.
Some of you weren't born.
Yeah, that's true. He was hired, by the way, at $1.92 per hour. Okay? On May 16th of 1976, so just a year later, Gary was hired full-time as an administrative assistant, and on December 23rd, 1976, so just a few months later, he was appointed as the acting city coordinator, which was the title of the city manager at that time. And whereas when Gary began his career with the city, the population was approximately 12,500. Does that sound about right, Gary? And Joe? Yeah. And has grown to over 85,000 today. And whereas on his resume from 1976, Gary's career objective was, and this is a quote, to secure a responsible position in local government administration where I will be able to help improve the efficiency and effectiveness of government operations, close quote, which he has done for the past 41 years here in St. George. And whereas Gary has attended approximately, and I think this has got to be low, Gary, 1,500 city council meetings and has served on numerous boards, commissions, and task forces throughout the state. And whereas during his tenure, Gary has been instrumental in the vision and creation of numerous venues and facilities in St. George, such as its trail system, sports facilities, visual and performing arts centers, such as the Electric Theater and the St. George Arts Complex, city parks such as Town Square and Thunder Junction All Abilities Park that we just heard about, as well as numerous other projects such as the Dixie Convention Center, downtown redevelopment, and the new St. George Regional Airport, just to name a few. And whereas Gary has been city manager longer than any city manager in the state and currently in the nation. We did some research. No one has served longer that we can find in a city in the United States. I think a town manager served a little longer, but he's already retired. But of a city and currently serving, no one longer than Gary Esplin. And whereas Gary and his wife, Deanna, both of whom are Southern Utah natives and have 5 children and 21 grandchildren with whom they would like to spend a little more time with. And now, therefore, I, Jonathan T. Pike, Mayor of the City of St. George, do hereby proclaim Friday, February 9th, 2018, as Gary S. Esplin Day. So, Council, do you agree with this proclamation? This is, all right. Some of those pictures, Gary, don't look like you. So I'm going to sign this, Council, and we'll present it to him tonight. But I think we're also going to try to do some other fun things that I want to mention to everybody in about a week. I guess it'll be, next Thursday, exactly a week, from 4 to 6 p.m. on the 3rd floor of the Dixie Academy building. To some that may not know what that is, you should. But it's the same building that the Children's Museum is located in. So anyway, from 4 to 6 p.m., everyone's invited. We need thousands of people there. And it'll be a nice little opportunity to thank Gary for his service for these just few 41 years. So, Gary, I'm going to bring this proclamation to you, and then we better hear a little speech if you can.
Well, not much that I can say to maybe add to that, Mayor. First, you don't do anything by yourself. You have to have the support of your family. My wife, I think of those 1,500, this might be her 3rd time that she's been there. I don't think she's smarter than I was, I guess. But my family's here, and I have some that aren't here. I just express my love and appreciation for their support. I'd like to also briefly say thanks to the employees. As you saw tonight, some of us get all the credit, but those that deserve the thanks and the praise are those that do the work every single day, and we've had great employees. And, you couldn't have completed anything without them, and so I'd like to thank them and the citizens for their patience and letting a young guy of 24 years old when I took this job, didn't know anything about anything, and give me a chance to try to make mistakes and do the best I can. Just maybe to finally say that Mayor MacArthur used to say, there might be some people that love St. George as much as he did or as much as I do, but I don't think anybody loves it more. And so I've appreciated the opportunity to be involved in my hometown and to try to make a difference. And I can honestly say that of every decision I've ever made, it was done with what I thought was the best interest of the community. May have been wrong, or people may have interpreted it differently, but from my heart, that's what I try to do, is make the best decision I could for the city of St. George. And it's been a great run, and St. George will continue to be an incredible place to live and an incredible place to raise families, and I'll be able to watch maybe from the sidelines and see other people have the opportunity to make it even a better place than it is today. Especially like to thank the elected officials. I think I've had like 20 or 21 city council people over the years, 4 mayors, and that's unheard of in government, to have that kind of continuity. And that's why we've been able to achieve what we have achieved, is the continuity of the mayors and councils and their willingness to serve, and take all the stuff they have to take from those that may not understand the issues or may have a difference of opinion, and be willing to serve their communities. And without that, nothing's possible. And I'd like to thank you and for the opportunity I've had to serve with you and all those I've served with in the past. And don't make any bad decisions. I'll be watching you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Gary. And I don't doubt that last part for a minute. He'll be watching, and that's good. He ought to be.
Will he be one of those angry citizens that emails us now?
No, he knows better.
No, I won't be that one of those.
Yeah. Well, council, I'd love to hear any.
Gary?
I know, but we got to give the council a chance.
Gary, I think you'll be happy to note that during the good news of your retirement, there wasn't a single Democrat in the crowd. They all stood and clapped. So I personally feel fortunate that I've got to be a part of the legendary career of Gary Esplin. I know when I was first elected, he was very nervous about this new council person.
He still is.
He quickly learned to see things my way, and we've gotten along great since then. One of the things that as we've talked to people in the past and we discuss Gary and his length of career and his way of doing business, one of the things I've always loved to discuss is the fact that anytime you have a leader of an organization that does not stand up for what he thinks is right, then I don't think you have a very good leader. And that's the one thing that I admire about Gary, is he isn't afraid to stand up and take a position and take the heat, and even sometimes from the council. And then once he's made his position known, he can quickly get behind what the council has desired. And I've enjoyed learning the things I've learned from him, and I consider it again a privilege to have learned from him and to be able to serve during this time when he's been the manager of St. George City. Thank you, Gary.
Michelle?
I can't say much more than Jimmy said. It's been a great pleasure to get to know Gary the last 4 years. I consider him a friend. He has taken a lot of crap from some of us that are a lot younger than him in stride, and we're witnessing history. There'll never be another person sit here for 41 years. And as somebody who's lived here an awfully long time, I'm grateful for the decisions that Gary's made, the department heads he's had over the years that have made this such an amazing place to live. And we're going to miss you on Thursday nights. Somebody's going to have to practice doing this when they're not very happy, but one of us will take over that role.
Deanna, feel free to bring him here on Thursday nights.
Date night.
Joe?
Well, luckily I'm older than Gary, but I'm not near as wise. He's been a great mentor. I jumped into an arena that I'd never been in for in my life, and he's been a great mentor to help us. This city did not become the great city that it is by having somebody not taking care of it, and Gary's done that tremendous job at that. I have promised his wife that if I see him standing out at the curb waiting for the mailman to come by, I'll kick his behind.
Well said, Joe. Betty?
Well, this has been an incredible experience to watch firsthand and up close and personal the workings of a city with a genius, someone who just had a handle on things, knew what his goals were, what he stood for, and what this city could do. I've been introduced to departments that I had no idea of, empty lots that I didn't know could even be purchased that we own. Just all across the board, the things that Gary knew. His knowledge is incredible, and his ability to lead the people, the employees, and the others of us has been just phenomenal. He's a miracle, a work of art. And I see the respect that people have for him throughout the state at some of the meetings that we attend in Salt Lake. And recently I saw 4 really distinguished businessmen kneel in front of Gary. They did. He's just, they're in awe of the things that he has done and the things that he has brought to pass in this beautiful city. And I love it a lot too, but I am very, very grateful to him for his, actually it's kind of sacrifice this long to sit through these meetings. They're horrible sometimes. And his patience and his tenacity and his desire to do the right thing for all of you and all of us is just phenomenal. And all I can say is thank you, Gary. And I meant every word.
Ed?
Thank you, Mary. I could just reflect a little bit. Michelle alluded to the fact that Gary's taken a lot of guff from the younger ones, but I can attest too that Gary's taken a lot of guff from us older guys. And it's been over, I guess, Gary, the first time I ran for office unsuccessfully, I gathered 900 and some odd votes, and you approached me. I don't know whether you remember it. It's down at the Spectrum building, down their new one, where they print now. And one of the things that you brought up is that point, even though I was unsuccessful, you posed that question to me: do you want to serve? Would you be willing to serve? And I think that what touched me was that Gary's always had that inclination for service to the public and bringing those people maybe who don't always agree with him, but also inviting them to serve with him. And I appreciate that, Gary, and I appreciate your willingness to listen and to answer the questions that I may have had to pose to you. And I really appreciate you taking Joe in hand over here on your right and keeping him going. But thank you very much, Gary, and thanks to your family. What a beautiful family. It just really brightened my heart to look out at those beautiful faces. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed.
Let's get on with the meeting, Mayor. It's enough of this.
But I got to say one more thing. So while your family's here, Gary, I know he spent a lot of time, at the city and doing things for the city and the citizens, and you need to know he's pretty embarrassed by all this. He doesn't like this, but we only get to do this once. So I just like to say a couple more things, and that is, if people only knew, we spend a lot of money, taxpayer money, in this building, and so as we do that, it's important that we have, Gary said a word earlier, continuity. Few cities have that kind of continuity in their management, and in the elected officials as well. But Gary has made sure, and he has always hit this harder than anything, that we need to do everything we can for the citizens of St. George, and to do it in a fiscally sound manner. We are fiscally sound. Of course, we have to balance our budgets. It's beyond balanced. We are very sound, and he leaves this city in the hands of a mayor and council, department heads, and a new city manager in the best possible shape, and that is really to be applauded, I think. So there's that. He has saved us as citizens more money than you can imagine through his efforts and through those of department heads to always look again to do the right things at the right price we do things right in St. George, but we also make sure that we can afford it. And as we reissue bonds, we're saving millions of dollars over the years, and that's Gary's management. And of course, there are venues and facilities, as we mentioned in the proclamation, some of which were his ideas, some of which were others, and he helped make happen, and with the councils and mayors before us. The infrastructure, think of the infrastructure changes that have had to happen over the course of 41 years. Was there one stoplight when you took your office? So, now I don't know how many stoplights we have. It's how many do we add each year? We add 2 or 3 each year these days. So I would say this. I am very comfortable in saying that no one person has ever had the impact on St. George that Gary Esplin has had. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Mayor. All right.
Now we can move on.
You're all excused there on the front, huh?
Thank you, Esplin family, and we hope to see all of you and more next Thursday at 4 p.m. Right, Deanna? All right. Just very quickly, Gary, one other thing. I see Laurel Paul in the back with some foreign exchange students. Will you just come forward quickly and introduce yourselves and tell us where you're from? They said just don't let it be a boring meeting, Gary, and I think we're off to a great start. Yeah. Please speak into the microphone. Yeah, there we go.
I'm Laurel Paul, and I work with PAX, Program of Academic Exchange, bringing foreign exchange students to this city. And these 2 young women are among them, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves and what country they're from and what high school they go to.
My name is Nika. I'm from Kazakhstan, and I'm going to Dixie High.
I'm Prel. I'm from Thailand. I'm go to Dixie High too.
And we need more host families next year for Dixie Highs or any of the other schools.
Thank you, Laurel. We appreciate you being here, and she loves to bring the foreign exchange students here. Once, one of them was mine. Yeah. Yep. Anyway, now let's see. Is there anything else pre-agenda that I'm missing, Christina? No one's here from the arts to do anything today that we're missing, are they, JJ? Are you here for something else? Okay. All right, just wanted... She can always do that. Well, I know we've got some things coming up, but I just wanted to make sure. When I see JJ Abernathy here, I'm thinking arts. So, all right, thank you. Well then, Gary, let's proceed.
All right, we'll go to the consent calendar. Unless you've got...
No. Just comments from the public.
All right, then we'll go to the consent calendar report for December 2017. You can see attached the agenda. On the agenda, the report from our finance director. We're in great shape so far, the first 6 months of this fiscal year. In fact, sales tax has been extraordinary, and so we don't have any real red flags at this point in time in the budget year.
Any questions on the financial report for December, Council? Okay, ready for a motion?
Mayor, I'd be honored to move that we approve the financial report for December 2017. December 2017.
Second.
I have a motion by Betty with a second by Jimmy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item 1C is a new airport hangar agreement with Mesquite Air Operations. They're taking over an existing hangar at the airport. It meets all the requirements, and the staff would recommend approval.
These are standard hangar leases. Council, do you have any questions?
No. Motion to approve the hangar lease with Mesquite Air Operations for hangar 57G and 58H.
Second.
I have a motion by Michelle with a second by Joe. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
You want to dive into public hearings or? Okay.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify, I don't think we skipped 1A because I didn't have any forms turned in for public comment. That is just for kind of comments of a general nature, not applying to anything on the agenda. Was there anyone that came to do that? Okay, then we'll keep going, Gary.
Okay, we'll turn to John to bring the public hearings forward.
The first public hearing, 3A, public hearing to consider changing the zone from C3 to PDC on approximately 3.32 acres, generally located approximately 2050 East Riverside Drive. So the applicant is requesting to zone change the property from C3 to PDC in order to apply for the new temporary ordinance that was approved by the City Council to allow for storage, a storage facility. So this is the site located here. This is Riverside. This is Mall Drive. It's located back in this area. Maverick is here. Current zone on the property is C3. This is the site plan. The applicant is proposing 2 access points. The one access will be off Riverside, located here. Second access will be from Mall Drive. They're also requesting 2 signs. Those signs will be located at both of those entrance points. So these are the 3 buildings the applicant is proposing. The first building, which is this building here, is approximately 30,000 square feet, and its primary use is for a storage facility. So it'll be indoor storage, self-storage. Building number 2 is located in the back, and it's approximately 10,000 square feet. It'll also be utilized for storage. The building number 3 is approximately 1,700 square feet, and that one will be a flex space, would allow for office and retail. The applicant doesn't have a specific use for the front building at this time. So this is building 1. This is the main building. This will be visible from Riverside. It has varying of architecture relief and colors and materials. Part of that temporary ordinance is that if it's a 2-story or 3-story storage facility, the requirement is that it looks like an office building. And so staff reviewed it. It appears to meet that ordinance. So this is building 1. This is building 2. This is located back behind building 1. And so again, it's a multi-story facility with similar colors. Building number 3, the applicant is requesting 2 facade types. The first facade type would be a 2-story. So this is the 2-story. It has a combination of stucco and also some rock in the front. They're also requesting the option of doing a 1-story building, and this is the facade with a 1-story, with again having the brick and also the stucco. Staff's reviewed the storage rental units temporary ordinance. It requires to be accessed off a major street. It also requires there to be a transition between a more intense zone to a less intense zone. It meets that requirement. And again, it requires those architecture details. Staff's reviewed it, and it meets those requirements. Materials board is located on the table. There's a few different types of materials. There's 3 types and colors of stucco and then also some ledge stone and also some split face CMU rock. And so those are located on the table. The Planning Commission spent a lot of time on the uses. They went through it and they discussed the uses, and their recommendation was for approval with a few modifications. 1, building 1 could only be used for the self-storage. Building 2 would be allowed for the self-storage in addition to the use list that was provided that they edited. And building 3 also would be for the use list. That use list, they did condition it or recommend approval with the condition that it would be indoor uses only. And so Planning Commission reviewed it, took public hearing, and that was their recommendation. In addition, the applicant is requesting a sign, 2 signs actually. The sign is 15 feet in height and 13 feet in width. This is the elevation of the sign. They're also requesting a reader board. There's been discussion regarding the reader board and the fact that it's adjacent to commercial residential in the rear, which our code doesn't currently allow. Staff's been in discussion, perhaps modifying that code section, given that the reader board will not be visible from the residential, and we don't see there being an impact. And so that's the sign that they're requesting, and that concludes staff's presentation on this item.
John, just one question. On the uses that you described, how did the staff feel about the uses that the Planning Commission recommends?
We felt okay with the uses. The one doesn't really have an area for outdoor display. We were concerned about the rear building, the ability to have like RV storage in the back. Staff didn't have an issue with the RV storage or utilizing that lot. But for that third building, I think it'd be difficult to utilize outdoor storage anyways, or outdoor display, just given the fact that it's how it's laid out.
Okay.
Another question, John, on the signage. We can approve that with then having approval by the staff for what you guys are trying to do on that reader board.
I think so. I don't know if Sean has an opinion on that.
Okay. We've discussed this before, and the height, because the height is so low, it's not visible from anywhere else on there. And we've got a PD here, and we've got under the temporary zoning ordinance, and we're looking at changing that. And I think you all were agreeable to that. We'll be okay.
Okay, super.
And John, just because of the proximity to the Virgin River, all due considerations have been taken into account as far as flooding and floodplains or floodway.
Yeah, that's correct. And the ordinance governs the floodplain and raising it up, and so that'll be something that we'll look and make sure it complies with the ordinance when the site plan is being reviewed.
Thank you.
Any other questions for John? Okay. Would the applicant want to say anything? Anything you want to address with the council? Okay. If there are questions, we can ask you later. Okay, then I will open the public hearing at this time for any who may be here to express input or ask questions about item 3A on our agenda today, this zone change. And if you just state your name for the record as you come forward.
My name is Mike Bruckman. I'm the site manager at Town Storage on 2012 East Riverside Drive. I've been asked to come and read a letter.
Hey, can you just pull that mic up a little bit better so everyone can hear? Yeah.
Thank you. I've been asked to come and read a letter today.
Yeah, we have that letter.
From Mr. Gary Free.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was, the city recorder gave each of the council members a copy, and the applicant has a copy of the letter now too.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be necessary to read the letter.
No worries. I was asked to come and read this. I don't think they understood, or Gary understood, that you had a copy.
Okay.
So if you have a copy, then there's no need for me to read that. And this has been made a part of the public record, I guess, or will?
It will be now included in the packet that will be adopted by the council and placed online.
Okay. All right. Then I think my job here is done. Thank you so much for your time.
Certainly.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Council, did you have any questions about the letter? Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, then I will close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for any other questions or discussion. The applicant is here if we have any questions.
You know, Mayor, just in case it goes by, the name of this is Fort Knox 2. And that Fort Knox storage on River Road's been there quite a while. Good, very well managed. And I have no problem making a motion if
you're so inclined, that's fine.
Mayor, I would make a motion that we approve the zone changing from C3 General Commercial to PDC, planned development commercial on approximately 3.32 acres, is generally located in proximity to 2050 East Riverside Drive.
Second.
Yep, we have a motion by Ed with a second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion?
Do we need to include the findings of the staff plus the use list?
Yes.
Could add those?
It's always a good idea just to clarify. So is that how you move in second?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Good clarification. Joe, any other comments? All in favor, starting with Joe, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay.
Mayor,
Ray.
Council. Item 3B, public hearing and consider changing the zone from R110 to planned development commercial on approximately 7.38 acres, and this is generally located at the southeast corner of 2450 South and River Road. Here's an aerial view. Here's the site. I'm tracing with the arrow. And just for proximity, this arrow is pointing to another commercial location that's right here. And then another commercial location that's enlarged here, that's right here. And you can see those a little better on the zoning map. This is the Fizz, the Domino's, the pharmacy that's here. Next to it's Beehive, the offices that are across the street, and the large animal vet is here, and then here's the site. Again, it's R110. General plan supports the proposal. It's commercial. This is a general outline of the property. And what you're looking at tonight is a zone change and a conceptual layout. And this is showing 6 buildings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on 5 possible lots. And then I have these just where we can look at them if necessary. They're enlarged, those sections. And it's showing the 90-foot right-of-way here on 2450, and River Road is also a 90-foot right-of-way. I have the square footage of the buildings. I won't read them each, but just show what's visualized for there. And then this one was added. You should have a copy of it. This was new since the packet came out. And basically it's just showing the red arrows or directional arrows that's showing from the residences that are proposed to be developed behind. There would be the ability to have foot traffic into the site, and then from the street and sidewalk, some walkability. Here's the proposed use list. The Planning Commission went through it. This is in your packet. What's outlined in red, unless you want me to read each of these, I won't. These are items that they felt recommend to you to be removed, but then the balance of them that they felt they would bring forth to you is recommended to approve. There's no building at this time. Everything is just conceptual. The applicant just gave kind of a concept of what he visualizes there. You would see it as it comes through with future zone change amendments as the properties are sold and developers come in. But this gives you an idea of what they envisioned. And at this time you have conceptual materials and colors until such time as you review each individual project if you see that they support this or have minor variations. That is basically it. That is what is proposed. Staff's available for any other questions, and also the applicant.
Questions, council? Okay. Again, on this, would the applicant want to say anything at this point if they're here? No? Okay. If we have questions, we can ask anything.
Do you know what's going in there yet? I mean, kinda.
We have.
Just come forward and state your name for the record.
My name is Dave Weller. I'm the manager of Desert Investment Group, and we have some offers pending, but I don't have anything that I can talk about. But the realtor is marketing it and having good success. So.
Very good. Is the thought kind of a grocery type store there for the anchor? Or?
We'd like a smaller
Yeah.
anchor there.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know what it'll be yet.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Nobody, if you're ready for some comments.
We can, well, let's do the public hearing first, and then we
Okay.
can come back. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. I'll open the public hearing on this item for any who may have come to offer input on this item 3B on our agenda. All right, I will close the public hearing then and come back now. Ed, any comments and discussion the council would like to have?
I just think it's notable, Mayor, that this particular project has taken over the period of time that it has, that the applicants have worked closely with the residents that live on the adjacent area. They've accommodated that, and actually by making this a kind of a mixture of residential and commercial, that was a big step, I think, on the part of the applicant. So that those who will occupy those homes that are going to be next to this commercial site will be able to do so knowing what is there and being able to be comfortable with their decisions. And at the same time, it's keeping faith with the neighbors that are adjacent to it. So I want to compliment that applicant for that effort that he made.
I think that's exactly right, and that's probably why there are, no serious inquiries or input today, because there's been a lot of input already gathered, and feels like a good plan. Any other comments? Otherwise, I'm ready for a motion.
Just one of the things going forward, just to know it, this is a planned development commercial, so we will be seeing
Elevations.
and the approved uses as they come, correct?
Well, I think they've agreed on the list, and so you would have to be comfortable with the list of uses there. You won't really see, approve the use because you're approving it tonight in the PD zone, but you will see the renderings, the building, the layouts, and all that.
Okay.
The list is part of this. It's right there in our.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mayor, if I might, just another comment.
Sure.
That the people in Little Valley and in that general area have indicated their need to have a commercial site available to them. And this particular site and some of the land that's just up the street or down the street close by, when you put them all together in the mixture of providing commercial avenues for those people in Little Valley and that surrounding area there, it's really important to them, and they've expressed a desire to have access to that type of service.
The catch-22, a little more commentary, is whether you build homes and how much traffic that increases versus commercial and how much traffic that increases. I know some of the people in the neighborhood are a little nervous about the commercial going in there and what element that brings into the neighborhood, and that's a fair thing to be nervous about. However, the idea by having some commercial out there is to alleviate traffic from having to come into town, being that we have only a couple of roads that do that. When you talk about 3000 East and River Road, then you have that big mountain in the way. So that's kind of my hope as we move forward, that we develop a project that is compatible with the neighborhood, and that we continue to take and input and communicate with the neighbors, not just the ones to the east, but some of the ones to the north feel a little bit slighted because they were, they're, even though they're across the street, they're closer than the neighbors to the east. So if we can make sure we communicate with those people and make sure they're notified in the future as these things move forward, it looks like a pretty good plan to best alleviate traffic and make the entrance and the egress and ingress compatible and as good as we can. So either way, with the growth, commercial or residential, it's going to increase traffic. We have to just admit that and know that and do the best we can to mitigate that. So,
Mayor, I'm ready to move approval of an ordinance changing the zone from R110 single-family residential, 10,000 square foot minimum lot size, to PDC planned development commercial on approximately 7.38 acres, generally located at the southeast east corner of the intersection of 2450 South and River Road.
Second.
With the with again, the conditions set forward by Planning Commission.
Planning Commission.
And we have a motion by Betty, a second by, was that Michelle? Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Ed this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, public hearing to consider amending the general plan to amend the Atkinsville Plan and the Desert Color Community South Block General Plan Land Use Map and associated text from open space to town center on approximately 25 acres located near the southeast intersection of Exit 1 of the Southern Parkway and the Southern Parkway. And Neighborhood 4, residential to agriculture on approximately 25 acres located in the southeast corner of the Neighborhood 4 and the Arizona border. So this is an amendment to the general plan that was approved by the City Council on May 1st, 2017. There's two areas that we're considering this evening, the City Council is considering. This is Area 1, located here. It's just south of this first exit and also south of the paparazzi that was approved by the council. Area 2 is located here, just south of Southern Parkway and Arizona border. So the current zoning, Area 1 is PDC. It's located in the Atkinsville the Atkinsville zone change plan. In Area 2, located here, it's zoned R110. So this is Area 1. This is a highlight. Area 1 is the current land use designation, and this area is open space. And the applicant is requesting to change it to town center. And additionally, this area would be removed from the Atkinsville plan and be integrated into the Desert Color Community Plan. The second area, which is located here, it's currently part of the Neighborhood 4. The applicant is requesting a change of land use to agriculture, which would support standard ag uses. So this is that area, Neighborhood 4. So this is what they're proposing to amend. They're proposing to extend this neighborhood, this town center, to include this area. And down at Neighborhood 2, they're proposing it to be agriculture, and again, integrated into the Desert Color Plan. This is a close-up, again, open space. This area, again, would be agriculture. There's two additional changes, which is to the text, and this will be added into their general plan text. And it states agriculture open space areas established for agriculture uses and structures to support agriculture uses such as community support, agriculture, sod farm, etc. No domestic animals will be allowed. And so that's kind of the guidance when they come forward with their zone change, what we'll be looking to for guidance for that particular property. And for the other property, which is currently in the Atkinsville, that's they're proposing to change to the town center commercial. This is the chart that'll be added. One change that should be noted is currently they have it listed as commercial C2. The C2 would be a zone, a specific zone, and we won't look at that until the zone change comes. And so we recommend striking out the commercial C2, and that'll be dealt with when they come forward with the zone change. So Planning Commission reviewed it, took public comments, and they recommended approval with striking that C2 out of the paragraph. And the applicant is here and can answer questions, and so can staff.
Any questions for John, council? Okay. Is there anything that the applicant would like to say at this point? Any questions for the applicant? Okay, then we'll hold for a minute. We'll open the public hearing for anyone that may have come to express input on this item, 3C on our agenda. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for any discussion or for your action. No other changes from what in the Planning Commission, correct? Just that striking the C2? Okay.
I would just say, Mayor, that this seems to be compatible with and in keeping with the previous matters that on zone change that came through with this desert color development in that general area, and there doesn't seem to be any conflicts, and it seems to be moving. So I think that's good that we were able to look at that far down the road.
And again, today what we're considering is amending the general plan, but
Right.
yeah.
Which we probably will see a few more of maybe as the concepts come to life and things move forward out there when you have such a large block of land that we're trying to get planned and planned right. Sure, that's going to change a little bit. So if you're okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the general plan amendments as discussed.
Okay.
Second.
Including the striking of the C2.
Yes.
Yep. Motion by Jimmy, second by Joe. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Joe this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. It's always so hard, you know, so much work has been done before this, and we appreciate the applicant and staff and, of course, Planning Commission for going through all the work. They do the heavy lifting for us, so.
Next item, 3D, public hearing to consider amending the general plan from low-density residential to commercial on approximately 5.97 acres, and from low-density residential to medium-density residential on approximately 5.9 acres, generally located at the southwest intersection of Dixie Drive and Canyon View Drive. So this is a general plan amendments. This is the area the applicant is requesting. This is Dixie Drive. I think we're calling this Canyon View.
It's called No Name Street right now, I think.
I think there was a sign that even said
Yeah,
that.
there was. The Public Works Director has been derelict in his duties. He's trying to I don't see him here, but trying to get a name for...
He's there.
See, oh, there
He's right
he is,
there,
back there
Cameron.
hiding. We have a little problem. The road that comes up, currently called Canyon View, and then we built the new road up, and it can't be called Canyon View as well, and so we're trying to rename that road. So, trying to see who's least affected by the name change. So, anyway.
Hey,
No.
There's
I
some
live right down off that
inspiration.
street, but I don't want anybody to know where I live, so let's not put it there.
John, so that the public can get a grasp as to the exact location, is it kind of by like Star Nursery that's off of Dixie Drive? It's pretty, just down a little
It's
further,
a little further north.
but it's in that area.
It's in that area.
Okay, so you
So
don't have an idea what we're talking about.
Yeah. It's currently zoned R110. The current general plan, the current zoning, the current general plan is low density residential. There's some medium density located to the west. Also to the north, there's Pelican Hills, which is a little bit more dense of a project, even though land use is showing LDR. And so their request is a two parts. The first part is the portion that's located along Dixie Drive to be commercial, which is approximately 5 acres. Portion that is behind the commercial be medium density residential. And it's approximately 5 acres, both properties. When we looked at it, you have the commercial and the medium density residential. You also have the medium density residential here. Depending on what the action of the city council is, may make sense. If the council does change this to MDR or considers it, it may make sense to come back later and address this. If not, it would just stay low density residential. Here's a couple pictures. This is looking down. This is kind of that intersection. This is the approximately 10, 11 acres located here. Planning Commission, they took public comments and they recommend approval for this general plan amendment. That concludes staff's presentation, and we can answer any questions.
Any questions, council, for John, first of all? Is the applicant here? In the back? Oh, there we go. Anything you'd like to say at this point before we open the public hearing? Okay. All right, then I will open the public hearing at this time, and for any who've come to offer input on item, let's see, where are we? 3D on our agenda. Just please come forward, JJ. Just state your name for the record.
My name is J.J. Abernathy, and I'm a resident of Pelican Hills Resort Condominiums. I have no objection to what has been recommended by the Planning Commission. I did attend their meeting when this was discussed. One of the big concerns, and I know I speak on behalf of many of the residents of Pelican Hills and also some of the short-time residents of the condos further up the street. The no-name street, we've given the name West Canyon View Drive, which shows on GPS. So I don't know if that's still going to be the name or not. We are in a private street off of West Canyon View or no name. What my concerns are and what many of our neighbors' concerns are, and I don't know if this can be put into the public, or excuse me, the proposed general plan for this piece of land development, or whether it should be something else. But I do want to bring this up to the City Council because it is a serious problem. I want to point out a problem that may take the life of a small child, an elderly person such as myself, a cyclist or a motorist crossing or turning onto the speeding traffic on Dixie Drive. It is beyond serious. I have witnessed an accident in this location, many near collisions, vehicles almost running into me. And my question is, must we wait for a major accident or the loss of a child or other pedestrian crossing the street, crossing Dixie Drive? To be specific, West Canyon View Drive intersects with Dixie Drive, and to cross over onto Cottonwood Cove Park, and trails even going to Thunder Junction. My grandchildren like to take the trail and go to Thunder Junction. It is very dangerous, especially when you have several small children and their parents. I mentioned it's also dangerous to cyclists and pedestrians and motorists attempting to cross or turn onto Dixie Drive. Dixie Drive has become a quasi-freeway. Many people stream down it coming and going to downtown St. George with a 40-mile-per-hour speed limit, which is exceeded. Very little patrolling is taking place there. I saw this past weekend. There were a couple of people being stopped, which thrilled me actually to see that. But a lot of people don't slow down. I'm appealing for a crosswalk and a red light to be installed sooner than later to protect those crossing from the many timeshares at the top of West Canyon View Drive, as well as Pelican Hills Resort Condominiums. There is a steady stream of cars driving down West Canyon View Drive, needing to turn onto Dixie Drive, and it's very treacherous to turn, especially for those turning left from West Canyon View onto Dixie Drive, and also across the street from I can't remember, Olive Grove. That's very treacherous. And so I don't know whether this needs to be presented at a different forum, but I think in as much as this project will probably go forward, we need this taken care of sooner than later. It's very serious. I walk that trail. I love the trail system here, and I use them all the time. And sometimes I want to just make a banner and walk across the street. Stop for me, please. But it is a very serious concern. And I say this respectfully to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, JJ. Might just, Cameron, would you mind coming forward just for a minute to just discuss, at least on a general basis, what's involved with installing a traffic signal?
Sure. At this location, I know Dixie Drive, we've looked at Dixie Drive previously, and cars do go down Dixie Drive pretty fast. Speed limit's 40 miles per hour, and your 85th is probably up to 44, 45, but you'll get faster cars than that at times. A traffic signal does require, to meet the warrants, it has volume warrants, it has accident warrants, pedestrian warrants, and we have looked along Dixie Drive previously. There's not enough traffic yet at this location for the volume warrants to meet. That could happen in the future. As it develops out up on that westerly bench, you could get a traffic signal. The spacing works from Valley View Drive all the way up to Sunbrook Drive. It does work. And so, yes, there could be a traffic signal there eventually based on the needs. But to be able to put it up today, it doesn't meet those warrants, unfortunately.
This is our Public Works Director, and he knows a little bit about traffic. And so, yeah, what he's describing is we can't just put up a traffic signal to be a traffic calming device. It's got to meet certain warrants or conditions, or we could be challenged legally for putting that up. Is that correct?
Yeah, and unfortunately, I see UDOT has a good database where they show traffic accidents whenever a municipality submits the traffic accidents to the state. They put that on a map, and traffic signals don't actually stop accidents from occurring. It changes the nature of the accidents so that they're less likely to be T-bones or more severe accidents. That's one of the warrants that you put a signal up, is if you have some T-bones accidents that enough there, you can put up a signal to try and deter those type of accidents, if that makes sense. But it does not solve the problem of people running red lights or rear-ending other vehicles or anything like that. In fact, if you look at the map, it has a lot more accidents at those signals because there's a lot more traffic. And it just doesn't solve it. I wish it would. I'm going to miss Gary by coming to work. He lets us know that he gets in his vehicle, goes 40 miles per hour down Dixie Drive in the inside lane, and that slows some of the traffic without him coming to work every day.
I definitely do that, and I can't tell you how many people have signaled to me and waved to me with
single finger
maybe
salute.
the wrong digit, but
yeah.
Well,
Meant to
Cameron's
say
here.
you're number one.
Yeah, right. Maybe I could, Mayor, since I live in this area of the city. Maybe my comments might be different than just being the city manager. But when this road was built, all the traffic used to go up the old Canyon View roadway, and even though it may not meet the warrants of the number of vehicles, with the new nightly rentals that are being built up on top of the hill, I drive that every day several times, and it is incredibly busy on that bypass road, if you want to call it that. But more importantly is what JJ has said that concerns me is we've created a little bit of a problem in the park that's across the street and with the trail system, because the only way you can get across Dixie Drive with the speeds that are going on there is go to a light. And for all those folks that are up on top of the hill that bring their bikes down, that go down to the park and run, jog, whatever, they can't get across Dixie Drive without, a real challenge because of spacing with the traffic signal on Sunbrook area. I really believe that the light was put there, that the traffic would then find a way, because Olive Grove people can't get out on the road because they're crossing the traffic to go. And so I know there are other reasons that you technically could look at and look at a traffic signal there to space that traffic out, because you've got anybody that's getting on to Dixie Drive is a real significant challenge because the traffic is going, and we could have a police officer out there all hours of the day and they're still not going to slow the traffic down because you've got a lot of visitors coming in, you've got people that aren't, and it is a wide road with the medians, and so it does encourage some of that traffic to be going maybe more than what's normal. But I would encourage us to look at, as that property develops along there, to look at some way of seeing if there's a reason why a traffic signal couldn't be put there to get the pedestrians across the street to the parks. I mean, that to me is, it's if you're out there and you're watching it, and I hate to be personal about it, but if I try to take my grandkids across that street to get over that, we get in the car and we drive down there because we can't get across the street. And lots of folks come down and use that to vacation and try to get down to the All Abilities Park and Thunder Junction. And one of our also favorite parks is the Spin Park that's there at Cottonwood Cove, and people just flock there. And right now, it's a problem. And so I'm not sure of the answer. I know legally we have to meet the warrants. I would just suggest that we seriously look at whether or not that warrant, we could figure a way to make the safety or whatever else that's on that thing, because we're never, Mr. Abernathy and I have this discussion at least once a week at a different time and place, but his solution is to drill a hole through the Black Hill, and I told him I didn't think that was going to happen. But if you look at St. George, you've got the east, this would be the West Black Ridge, and so we know one thing for certain as we're sitting here, that the traffic is not going to decrease on Dixie Drive, because you have no other way to take that traffic. And so as development occurs on the west side, we need to do something along Dixie Drive to help those folks get across the street and get in and out of there. As Olive Grove, the average age of folks in Olive Grove is older than me. Believe that or not, that's old. And, getting on and off that street, as well as the new people not knowing where they're going really, because they're here for a vacation. I just think we need to look at those warrants and see if there's some way that we could get in the planning for that, because I agree that with that traffic on Dixie Drive, it's unbelievable trying to get on off
If you're
that
just
road.
going to look at the No Name Street intersection, I don't think it works, because I would say I'm heading north on Dixie Drive. I don't know if I'm right, but if I'm heading north on Dixie Drive,
You're heading west or east on Dixie
okay,
Drive.
so I'm heading east on Dixie Drive. There will be 5 cars turning left on the No Name Road, but you get up to the Esplin Memorial Parkway, Canyon View, and there are 5 cars stacked to turn left onto Dixie Drive there, because they take that as the shortcut down to go back to Albertsons or Sunset or that way. So really you should add up both, because if there was a light down at the new intersection, I think people would go down there rather than...
I was thinking that same thing. I didn't mention it, but I think the traffic will be moved over to that light, just like it happened up on Snow Canyon Parkway, because you can't turn left on there. So that would be the only way to turn left. I think that you'll see a huge change in the numbers. Now, whether it's enough to make the requirements of the warrant, I don't know that. But I would just hope that we would recognize that as well as the neighbors wanting us to look at that, because it's going to be a problem and it's not going to get any better. And maybe there's a way that we can look at a traffic signal there, because the spacing's good, and it would slow the traffic down a little bit on Dixie Drive, but at least allows some spacing to get in and out. You got commercial, down the road there as well, and so I would say that we ought to seriously look at that.
There's one thing that, and Gary kind of referred to it a little bit, there's other warrants. There's your network and your, to try and make the overall network, not just this location, but overall Dixie Drive, to try and queue up cars and put them in platoons so that you do have gaps. There are other warrants for that. We did that specifically for St. James. When we put that signal in, it just never could, because it was developed out, it never could meet the volume warrants. But it made sense once we had 1450 South, Fort Pierce Drive, 2450 South, to put that signal in there to be able to create those platooning. And so we could look at it as a whole, down the whole corridor, and see where we're to and what we might need there if you'd like.
I think that'd be a good way to go next. And really, this is one, I hear on the radio others on the same road. So it might be good. I mean, I know periodically we look at these things anyway, but certainly this would be a good time, I think, to maybe look at that in a new light. Pardon the pun. And really what we're probably looking at is Gary's exactly right. As we go to our MPO meetings, our transportation planning meetings, this could be a 7-lane road at some point, or 5. It's already 5, but easily this could become like what Bluff Street is. be coming here right now as we're expanding Bluff Street. Because as Santa Clara and Ivans develop more, where are they going to go? They're going to either go Bluff Street or they're going to come down Dixie Drive. So I think it's a good point. We're all saying the same thing. Let's just look at it in whatever way we can and try to plan accordingly. Otherwise, we got to build a tunnel or something.
Mayor, it's a scary road.
Mayor.
And I don't want it to be, because that's a very convenient road, but there are times when I'm actually looking for something, a business or whatever, and going a little slower in the cars, or just, that's always a scary situation to have.
You know, Mayor, there's so many other areas in town that are asking for signal lights as well. And maybe Cameron can comment for the public and those at home so they understand. Do you not keep a kind of like a priority list of where the future signal lights are going to be, and they're kind of planned out over the years depending on the volumes and the warrants? And again, the budget, these signal lights are quite expensive to come about. So an area like this, Mayor, as I understand it, if it came up a little higher on the priority list depending on accidents or whatever, your master list of what can be done, you'd bring it back to the council.
Yes.
And say, hey, this needs to be addressed now. But you do keep a list of where all the next signal lights are going to be right now. We have it in the budget, and so there are these locations planned for signal lights depending on need and the financing.
All right. Well, thank you, Ed. Thank you, Cameron. Any other comments from the public on this item?
Mayor, just another, I hate to take time, but if you look at the property here, because I've been a resident out there for 30 years, and you know, I don't know what type of development you could put along Dixie Drive. You know, I think that there's some residential, but it's either got to be maybe more vacation or more medium density type stuff. But with the condition of the soils, with the traffic on Dixie Drive, I think the Planning Commission was correct in trying to figure a use that might be applicable for the property as well, because as you go all the way along to the east from this site, it's now all properties for sale. And so you're going to see a lot more zone changes, because I don't believe people are going to buy right close to Dixie Drive on that unless you do a really nice buffering job and the rest of that. So,
well said. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah, my name is Alan Hicken, and I'm a real estate agent, and I represent the Pelican Hills project. And just one question I have on the higher density: do you know if their intention is for more nightly rental type units, or do you know?
John or Gary?
well, I don't think we've seen that
Yeah.
yet, because this would be a general plan.
Yeah.
This is just a general plan amendment, and so I think we would see it. They're asking for the general plan amendment to go to medium density, if I believe.
That is right. A medium density on this piece, you're going to allow between 29 to 53 units, and that's everything from detached, little higher density to townhouses. what we
So
typically
short-term
see.
rentals wouldn't work, would they?
No, because I don't think you're going to meet the unit count on this particular property to allow for short-term rentals.
Under our current
Yeah,
ordinance.
current ordinance.
Plus, they'd have to, by the time they built the amenity package, they wouldn't have enough units, and so I
That's
don't
what I'm-
think that there'd be
Exactly.
it wouldn't be nightly rentals, I don't think.
Okay, and I think the main concern, again, for Pelican Hills is traffic. You know, what traffic will be brought by the commercial and slowing down the traffic. I mean, I've sold a bunch of those units, and they're pretty close to Dixie Drive.
They are.
And if you're sitting on your back porch, you can't really have a conversation with your neighbor. But,
Yeah, that's true. It's a sad deal. Some of those folks are.
so a light would do a lot for even helping noise, I
Yeah.
think, in that area. So,
I'll just have new ones. People peel out and, you know.
yeah.
Well, I've traded away my Camaro now, so
I
I don't
know,
have
Gary.
a black Camaro. So you won't have to see that black Camaro racing down that street next to the Pelican Hills. So.
Well, again, I think we're on the same page in terms of trying to see what we can do to get a light there.
From my understanding, did you get a letter from
Yes.
one of the owners in there?
There's
too?
two of them.
Yep.
Okay.
We got 2 letters.
We did. Thank you very much. Any other comments on this item, 3D? I'll close the public hearing at this time then and come back to you, council, for any discussion or questions or motion.
I just make another comment, Mayor, that this is another area on the west side of town where citizens are contacting me and expressing the need to have some commercial venues out in that particular, right off of this area we've been discussing, and they need to have some commercial access, and it would comply with some of the previous points that were made. So, and that's what this is changing the low density to a commercial on that corner.
You ready for a
Very
motion?
good. I'm ready if the council is, yep.
I will make a motion to amend the general plan from low-density residential to commercial on approximately 5.97 acres, and from low-density residential to medium-density residential on 5.91 acres, located southwest intersection of Dixie Drive and Canyon View Drive.
Second. Motion by Michelle with a second by Joe. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Ed this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. By the way, Councilman Hughes will be back. He had to go make a brief presentation, a commitment he made previously. Not sure how long we'd be going today, so he'll be back. Wes.
Yes, sir. So item 3E is a request to consider vacating the northerly portion of 1470 South Street between Blackridge Drive and Hilton Drive. So basically the request is to vacate the yellow area here, here's Hilton, Blackridge, is to vacate that yellow portion right there that is behind the sidewalk that is part of the public right-of-way. The applicant came forward as they're trying to purchase the tennis courts here and construct a building, and they need it for setback purposes.
Any questions, council, on this? A little bit of cleanup, kind of. Okay. Then I'll just go straight to the public hearing for anyone who's come to offer input or ask questions on this item 3E on our agenda today. Seeing none, I'll come back to the City Council for any discussion or for a motion on this vacating the northerly portion of 1470 South Street between Blackridge Drive and Hilton Drive as has been presented to us.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Michelle and a second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion?
I would just say, Mayor, that that roadway is wide, and the use that the city has for the sewer lines or other structures that need to be underground and so forth are quite adequate, and that this land would fall within an area that really is not needed. It's more than we need in that particular spot.
Very good. Any other comments or questions on the motion? Thank you. Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Joe this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously.
Are we all ready to 2F?
Yeah.
All right, this is a public hearing to consider adjustments to the current budget. You should have in your packet a copy of those recommendations from the budget officer as well as myself. You can see that there's not a lot of huge ones. Some of these we've already talked about. Just some changes with fees that because we've had a lot of increased use at Shack and for programming in the recreation center and the youth sports for participation in those programs that generated more revenues as well as additional related costs. Let's see if there's any, let's see the big ones here.
Big one's the Bloomington Drive one.
Right, there's the airport improvements on number 11. We're talking about $1,301,000. This is to budget for the proposed grant that we have. That's our match is 9% of that, which we have set aside out of our PFC funding. Let's see, Park Impact Fund. As you recall, with the Bicycle Skills Park that we're going to be bidding here in February, in our current budget, we have $300,000 that as part of that overall project, and it's a $800,000 project for a restroom and some other improvements. So we're transferring that money into the fund that's going to build that, and so it's not really anything other than just a bookkeeping. Public Works, you can see the Bloomington, well, excuse me, the next one, the next one is the underpass on 400 South for the pedestrian. We've talked about that. That's recognizing those fees. Then you've got Bloomington Drive. You know, we're doing, the scope of the project has changed, and we're doing more than what we thought there. And then basically that's it.
By the way, the Bloomington Drive thing, project, folks, since I live out there, it's going really well. It's messy, as you can imagine, if you get out there. It's messy, but it's a huge improvement. And while this is more than what we originally planned, it's still in line with what we planned.
I think we tried to do it in 1
recently.
year instead of 2, and then there's some other water improvements and some other
Put in a
improvements that went in while we're
replacement
doing it.
water line.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I ask Gary a question, Mayor?
Sure.
Gary, this airport improvements, does this include all the additional updates on the parking lots that we're in the process of having an update and so that we can comply with the federal regulations? And
On the parking, we've already currently, in our budget, we have money set aside to buy a new parking system, if that's the one you're talking about,
right.
to comply with that. And I'm not sure, Cameron, whether that's been delivered, or I don't think we've ordered it. Okay.
But it's
It will be
it's
put
coming.
in soon, because right now we've got people out there taking the tickets, and it's not very efficient. And so we'll be hopefully getting that installed soon.
Thank you.
I was thinking they were saying they were hoping February sometime, but yeah. Any other questions, council, on this item? Okay, then I will open the public hearing for any who may want to express input on this item, which is considering amendments to the fiscal year 2017-18 budget. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council. Just explaining again to those of you in attendance, this is what we're required to do when we make changes to the budget. Sometimes, well, you can't foresee everything, and so sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's just technicalities, things that you're transferring one fund to another, and we disclose those two and have the opportunity for a public hearing. Council, ready for a motion unless you have questions for Gary or staff.
Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the amendments to the fiscal year 2017-18 budget as outlined.
Second.
Motion by Ed with a second by Michelle. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Betty, say aye.
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 How's that? Motion carries unanimously.
I guess we can go back to bid openings.
Yeah. Let's do
Okay, the first item 2A. Is the award of bid for the Sunset Well replacement. This is one of those where one department takes a hit for another department. And Scott's smiling back in the back, but he didn't realize what he was taking on, I guess. But this was for the Sunset project out at by Sunset Elementary. There's a park. It's been there for a long time. We used an existing well, or we have a well with some underground water rights in that area. That well has bit the dust, and so the irrigation department within the water department graciously agreed to replace that well. So these are bids to do that. So go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, this one was done through a formal bid, and we're requesting to award that bid to the two Gardner brothers in the amount of $137,585.
This is again trying to utilize all our water resources without using culinary water to water our outside parks and such.
Any questions, council? Otherwise, ready for a motion.
Move to approve an award bid to Gardner Brothers for the Sunset Well replacement project.
The amount.
The amount was what again?
Oh, sorry. $137,585.
We have a motion by Betty with a second by Joe. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. As part of that, The next item is consider award bid for the Sunset Park Phase 2 project. You might know that area of the city out there is extremely densely populated, lots of kids, lots of need for parks, and so we have the existing park that we built in conjunction with the school way back. We purchased this property next to that park with the idea of expanding it as the area developed, and so this has kind of been in the works for a long time. It's spanned 2 budget years, and we didn't include enough in this budget to pay all of it, so we anticipated having to do a budget adjustment to complete this. Normally a park takes about $300,000 per acre to build. We have $750,000 in this current budget. Like I say, it's our fault for not making sure we had enough in the current budget. But the bids came back in. Actually, the bids for the construction came in very well. But we're going to provide the playground equipment and some of the other stuff you'll see there. But totally, we're about $500,000 short in the current budget. What we're recommending to cover that shortfall is that over the years, these projects are built out of the park impact funds that we collect on building permits. As projects are built, as balances are returned back to this fund, and as we estimate the amount of money we're going to collect from park impact fees, the last few years they've been higher than what we anticipated. So currently there is a balance, that's unallocated balance in the park impact fund, sufficient to cover this shortfall of $510,000. And so that's our recommendation, how we're going to fund it. I'll let Brett give you the details on the bidders.
On this one, we had 5 bidders that bid on this construction part, and we're requesting approval to award that bid to Feller Enterprises in the amount of $909,403.58.
Questions, council? You can see the bids there.
And Fellers is currently doing the Worthen Park.
Yeah.
And it's looking good. And
Looking
it's
great.
Pretty close to being done.
Boy, what a change.
Beautiful project
Yeah.
there. It's right adjoining.
Yeah.
This is to the south of it, because the one park is right next to it, and so it goes down. There's a street down there, and it backs up on that street for another access. The reason we tried to be cognizant of the neighbors. We've had
Yeah.
several public meetings out there. I know the mayor's met with some of the neighbors, and so it's
Council
taken us a
members.
little longer to get this park built, but we're providing some additional parking and some amenities there that I think that will make everybody happy out there, I hope.
Any other questions, council?
I'll make a motion to award the bid to Feller Enterprises for the Sunset Park Phase 2 in the amount of $909,403.58.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Ed. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next part is the part of that park is the most important thing. And that's the equipment, the slides, and all the good things and fun things there. And so, go ahead with that one, Brad.
All right, this one, we're going to use the U.S. Communities Government Purchasing Alliance, which is a cooperative contract. So we are requesting approval to purchase the playground equipment from Place-Based Designs using that cooperative agreement in the amount of $93,967.
Questions, council, on this?
Does the school participate in any of this sharing, since it's right next door and I mean, we share so much and we work together so well?
No, I think the original park was built on their property, and I think we had also with the LDS Church had an old softball field there, and so when it was originally built, it was a three-way party agreement. This is kind of south of the school a little bit, and so but you know, they provided, we purchased this land, and so it's kind of our project at this point, but we certainly allow them to use it as they allow us to use their facilities.
Good question. Okay, any other questions? Ready for a motion then?
Motion to approve the Sunset Park Phase 2 playground equipment bid to Play Space Designs in the amount of $93,967.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Joe. Discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Next item is for downtown. We're replacing some of the street lights with LED lights as part of our trying to be conservation minded. And so go ahead with those. We had 3 bidders, I believe.
Yep, 3 bidders on this one, and we're requesting approval to award the bid to Border States in the amount of $124,800.
We've done a lot of this already, and it saves a lot of money, and it's and they're a little more, as I understand it, there's some adjustability with them. So, any questions, council?
It's always good to save money.
It is. Ready for a motion?
Move to approve a bid, award the bid to Border States for LED street light heads in the amount of $124,800.
Second.
Motion by Betty with a second by Ed. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Next item is for replacement of our poles in our energy services department. We had 3 bidders on that, and so go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, we did this bid the same time as the LED bid, actually, and the same 3 bidders bid on each of the 2. And same vendor on this one. We're requesting to award it to Border States as well in the amount of $53,176.48.
Any questions on this, council?
What's the lifespan on these poles? These are wooden poles. And it's
Got me. That's way above my pay grade on that.
They're cedar. They last forever.
They last a long time, let's say that.
Until
I don't
some
see
really
anybody
nasty
here, so.
windstorm comes up, and you know.
We do. It's interesting you
We
ask
test
that
'em,
question
don't we?
because we do test them. Because some of the poles get butt rot, they call it, and that well, that's the technical term. So, and so we're out testing all the wood poles that we have in the city on a regular basis. They have a schedule and try to see which ones are rotten or have a problem, so they don't get blown down in the storm. So.
You learn something
You
every
that's
day.
right.
every day.
Write that down. You're going to learn something tonight.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm ready for a motion.
Move to approve the bid to Border States for the purchase of Western red cedar wood poles in the amount of $53,176.48.
Second.
Motion by Betty with a second by Michelle. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Brett.
Well, do you want Mayor to go? We have Paula here to do that business license, but she can earn overtime and comp time. Do you want to go back to the agenda? I know you've got people here on some of those items, rather than going through the ordinances at this point that we have left.
Now let's go to staff reports.
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to have Jimmy back for the most key ones, but
Which one are we on?
Well, we could be on item 4B. No, 4B, I believe. And then we've got C, which we talked about in the work meeting, and then we've got some other items there under one other ordinance that wasn't part of the public hearing. So whichever you'd like to do.
let's go ahead and do 4B and C for now.
Okay.
Stay in order.
Who's doing 4B? Wes or John? Wake up down there, Wes.
Okay, item 4B is a request to consider approval of an ordinance vacating a portion of the Sundown Estates subdivision located east of the Church of Christ, located at 1330 West, 750 North. Basically, Basically, the request, this is the road into the subdivision here. This little area right here was shown as common area on their plat of Sundown Estates subdivision. Their request is to vacate that portion of the common area from their subdivision and then sell it over here to the Church of Christ property. So the request is just to vacate that portion of property right there.
Any questions on this, council? Nice when you can make something work for your neighbor, I guess. Okay, this doesn't require a public hearing, so unless you have comments or questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the ordinance vacating a portion of the Sundown Estates subdivision located east of the Church of Christ, located at 1330 West 750 North.
Second.
Motion by Ed with the second by Michelle. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Michelle, say aye.
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 Very good. Motion carries unanimously. We have to mix it up once in a while, folks, to keep ourselves awake. Okay. Next one. Is Paula doing this one? Yeah. Thank you for your work on this, Paula, in advance.
And just as she's coming up, just a reminder, we talked about it briefly at a previous council meeting, but these are changes that are required under state law, so that's why we're making the changes.
Excellent.
Okay. I'll just quickly go through what we discussed in the work meeting so everyone knows. The changes that are being made, we're making some in Chapter 1 of the Business License Code that will allow for alternating dates for the business license to expire. So we're removing the requirement that they all expire the end of December. And that's so that the workload can be spread throughout the year. The next major change would be removing the requirement for contractors to register with the city. So that'll save them a little paperwork. And then the big changes are to the home occupation code sections that will allow an expansion in the type of home occupations that are in the city. It is creating two categories. So you would have a category which we call Class A home occupations and a Class B home occupation. Class A essentially are those that create no impact on the neighborhood. They're the ones that are working at home on their computer or on the phone, and so they really, people don't even know that they're there. The Class B will have a little bit higher impact, but still has to be very minimal so that it's not creating a real hardship on the neighbors there. But they're the ones that may have some clients come to the home, may have people in and out of the home, more deliveries, more things like that, that would create more impacts on the neighborhood itself. So I specifically made the changes that we discussed in the work meeting last week, so that we removed some of those requirements. So now it specifically says that they can have up to 10 people at the home at one time. So if they have like a class where they're having people all come at the same time, they can have up to 10 people at that time. And they could have multiple classes during the day. And so there's no top limit on that per your recommendation there.
Even with individual groups, it can be more than 10 on a whole day period.
Yes, 10 at a time, but they could have 5 classes, so say 50 people during the day. Probably no one's going to do that, but they could technically do that. They are allowed to use the outside in their yards for daycares, preschools, and classes, as we discussed. That change was made. They can have 1 employee at the home on the Class B license, as well as the people who actually live in the home that can work for that business as well. And then the merchandise, they can't sell merchandise except as allowed by state law. So that was the cottage industry things that we talked about at the work meeting. So all of those changes were made as we discussed. Does anyone have any questions?
No, I just want to make a comment that there's 4 whole pages of line outs, which I just think is great. I love the fact that we're consolidating and reviewing our codes and
Trying to
making them
simplify.
simple. And that's just, I'm sure the citizens will be thrilled about that.
And to go along with that, Brenda's really working on the forms to simplify the process so they can go through and just kind of do checkbox and explanation of what they're doing so that we can get them in the right category and make it as clear as we can for everyone what's going on.
Great. Great comments. Sean, anything?
Just that Brenda Hatch also has been working very hard on this, and so just thank her for all of the efforts that she did to help write this ordinance and also what she does in her job.
John
Thank
Willis
you.
helped too.
Thanks,
We'll give John some credit.
John helped?
John helped too.
So we're not thanking him right now, just Brenda.
Well, thank you later, John. Any other questions or comments on this?
I would say, Mayor, that some may express the feeling that this is loosening the controls of some of the requirements in a residential area, and that is good. And also, the important thing is that it puts us in compliance with state law, and that we're keeping our ordinances up, and that's really important.
Yeah, well said. And again, additionally, as we talked about in the work meeting, you know, we were thinking about other things while we were at it to try to make things, as Betty said, a little simpler, a little easier, a little as fair as we can. Joe, right? We were really trying to think through those things, and yet, you know, there's a balance to be had in terms of what happens in neighborhoods. All right, if there are no other comments, I'd entertain a motion.
I would move that we approve the ordinance suspending or amending the business license code as presented to us.
Second.
And thank the people who worked on it.
Motion by Joe and a second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Ed, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Should we go to E, Gary? 4E, I think that's the temporary ordinance regarding temporary banners.
Right. This is one we discussed as well in the last work meeting, and I think that rightfully so, some of the business owners have been a little bit concerned about the Bluff Street construction and getting customers in and out during that major road improvement. And so I think that when we did St. George Boulevard, if I remember correctly, we tried to help those businesses by allowing them to have a little bit of latitude on the sign ordinance. And so that's the recommendation from staff today, is to allow this temporary ordinance to help those businesses get a little more sign presence out there to help get their customers through this construction. So Paula can give you the details on that.
So as we discussed at the council meeting, or the work meeting, we provided for a temporary banner, which is already in our ordinance for holidays and those special times, so it's broadened it to allow them to have one temporary banner during this time frame while they're under construction along the road there, up to the 32 square feet, which is the same standard we use on our banners for the other times. But we also added that it'd include the feather or teardrop banners, which we do not allow any place in the city. So that's a pretty big change for them, and obviously they usually can get a little more height with those kind of banners than they get for the banners that are 4x8s. So they can use those. In addition, we allowed for another banner on the building, so they can have an additional one on the side of their building or the front of their building. It can be, you know, depending on the height of the building, that could be higher, so it's more visible for people driving down the road there. So those are the two specific areas. It has to be located on their property or within the commercial development where their property is located. So like in the old, or where the Kmart is, that's a commercial development. So each business could have a banner out there in that development, but it has to stay on the property.
It's very brief, and that's great and appreciated. It's, council, if you had a chance to look through it, it's simple, and I think it does what would be helpful for some of these businesses. It's one of those things where we want people to avoid, I guess, Bluff Street when they can for during the busy times and so forth, and when they're not, you know, going to those businesses. But the businesses remain open, and we want them to, you know, people to feel free to go to those businesses and highlight those a little bit through this. So,
you know, Mayor, I appreciate the comments you made on the radio today addressing that, and puts us in mind of when they were reconstructing St. George Boulevard, the impact that it had on those businesses. So this is a good thing to help
Yep.
the business people down there.
Sean?
And I I'm sorry, I may have missed it, but it's from 100 South
Correct.
to north to Sunset.
It's in there, but yes, that's exactly
wanted to
right.
mention that on-
This isn't citywide. And it doesn't apply to where Kmart is, for example. She was using that as an example, but it wouldn't apply to where Kmart is.
I'd make a motion, Mayor, if you're ready,
Yes.
that we approve the temporary ordinance for banners for between 100 South and Sunset on Bluff Road for regarding temporary banners.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Ed with a second by Michelle. Any discussion on the motion?
I've noticed in there, and I looked to make sure they had a date on it to end it. I hope it's done by then,
Yeah.
What does it say?
November 1st.
I think we should make that January 1st, 2019, frankly. to
We'll be
safe.
flexible on that, of course. And we'll let you know.
I think their intention is to be done by then, but to be finished is my...
Cameron assured me they will be.
Okay. Well, I would just say if we have to, like you say, if we need to extend it, we could.
Okay.
We can.
All right. All right, let's see, we had a motion, didn't we, and a second? All in favor, this is an ordinance, so all in favor, starting with Joe this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Okay, Gary, do we go to, let's see, staff reports?
There's a couple of resolutions
yep,
there, I think.
Yep.
We approved the resolution on the budget. I think item 5B under state law, I think after an election, it's required that the mayor and council approve the statutory and the appointed city officers of the city.
So, Gary and council, Sean, I have a list here that I'd like to read and then give you a chance to approve a resolution appointing the city officers. First of all, City Attorney Sean Guzman, City Recorder, Sean, wave your hand so everyone here knows. Okay. City Recorder Christina Fernandez. Christina, wave your hand. Deputy Zanette Hansen, I don't know that she's here. And Renee Fleming and Jenna Singh. We need that kind of backup occasionally, so those are assistant deputies, city recorders. City Treasurer Laura Woolsey. Chief of Police, who happens to be here, Marlon Stratton. I was going to say wave your gun, but no, just wave your hand. No. Fire Chief Robert Stoker. Hopefully he's not busy on a fire. They've had some serious fire this week. So, Director of Leisure Services McShane, or Shane McAfee. Thank you, Shane. Director of Public Works Cameron Cutler. We've heard from Cameron earlier. Director of Water Services Scott Taylor. Scott was here as well in the back. Director of Energy Services Laurie Mangum. Couldn't be here tonight. And Director of Administrative Services Trevor Coombs. Trevor? Saw him earlier. I think that's everyone. Council, I would entertain a motion to approve by resolution the appointment of these city officers.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Joe and a second by Ed. Any discussion on the motion?
I think I need to say this, that that list of individuals that you went through, Mayor, and this being Gary's last city council meeting, that this new coming city manager, Adam Linhart, can really thank Gary for the caliber and the type of people that we have here within the city filling these positions. And that will make the transition and the continuation of the standards that we have.
Well said.
Agree with that? They're a great group.
Yeah, Gary just said he agrees with that. It is a great group, great executive staff. And so, all in favor, starting with Ed, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously.
The next item, I think, has been tabled, the appointment of the, officially of the city manager.
Yep, we'll wait
He
until
wants
he's here.
Wants to
Yeah.
be here with his family, so. Okay, we'll then go to staff reports. Item 6A, this is a local consent for a Class C license for full-service restaurant for wingnuts located at 250 North Red Hills Drive. I don't think we had any issues with the request. It met our requirements, and the staff recommends approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Betty with a second by Michelle. Discussion on the motion?
No, but I'm hungry. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
does sound good, doesn't it? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Item 6B, this is a discussion that we've had previously in the work meeting. This is a formal presentation. I think, Mayor, you may want to let the applicant make a few comments. I think we've all enjoyed the George Fest or Street Fest, whatever we're going to call it, of trying to bring people downtown to our businesses, as well as having a special event for our community folks. I think that in the past, as has been discussed, it may have changed from maybe the original concept of what we had hoped would happen downtown. There's a new group that's going to be taking charge of this Street Fest, and I think based on the information we've received as staff, we feel like that it's going in the right direction with the changes being made, and we're trying our best to support it. So with that, maybe you want to have the applicant make a presentation.
John? This is John Kessler, who I believe is the board chair of Street Fest organization. Is that right?
That is correct. Okay. And I haven't sat through a council meeting since Boy Scouts, so thank you for all you guys do, seriously.
Sorry to make you wait so long.
You earned another merit badge.
I think I did. I take it, too.
This is what we do.
That was easy. Yeah, that's awesome. So, real quick, Joe, just as a private citizen of 30 years and also president of the St. George Lodging and Tourism Association, I don't know when we're going to have a chance to say thank you as well, but I'm so busy, I don't know if I'm going to make it to that meeting, so thank you very much. I appreciate all you've done. So, yeah, I'm chairman now of the George Fest. That's the official name right now as it's carried. This is the first year that I've helped out with all of and been involved with all of the permits and the permissions and fees and all of that process. I'd like to put a shout out to Karen and Brenda in licensing and permitting down there. They were absolutely wonderful and a delight to work with. They really helped me a lot. Now, in putting all this together, just a real quick synopsis of how this all came about. I'm involved with the Downtown Business Group. That'd be Nikki Pace. There's several folks on that committee, and they help promote the downtown businesses. And so 2 years ago, when we got together, we wanted to create an event that would bring people down, and it would be up to the businesses to promote their business if they so chose. So what happened was we got together with a group, and we told them, we're busy running our businesses. If you can make this work, and if you can carve out a little money from it, then do it, and you deserve every penny, because we know what it takes to put these kinds of things on. Because we've seen them come, we've seen them go, we like them, but we can't run them. We've learned that, we've learned our lesson. So if you can make it work, go forth, and you have our blessing, we'll help where we can. Well, that went on for about 6 months, and it became very quickly evident after those 6 months that the event had outgrown the ability of the Downtown Business Group. And so those two entities parted ways. And for the next 6 months, it actually became a for-profit venture, and therefore the name change. Originally, I think it was the St. George Street Fest was the original name and concept, and then it had changed. I think it was George Street Fest on Main for that little interim, and that part I wasn't around. And then to help it be, hopefully continue on and be a bit more, to continue on at all, the next step was to become a nonprofit. Well, they couldn't go straight to becoming their own nonprofit, so they then teamed up with Arts Inc., which is, as you know, Ernie Deuce in the DeFiore Center up there. And so currently, George Fest is running as a DBA underneath Arts Inc. Arts Inc. is very adept at helping organizations and groups become their own nonprofit, so kind of an incubator, as you will. And so they're helping us through that process and learning how all that works. So our intention is, as soon as we can, to become our own entity and our own nonprofit. At the very latest, by the end of the year, is the goal to make that happen. So we've assembled a whole new board of directors. We've brought on a new management staff as well. Many of them, because of moving and natural attrition of life, a lot of the, well, pretty much all of the management staff resigned at the end of the year. So I wasn't even sure if we would have George Fest surviving any longer. So, but we have some great talented people, backgrounds in marketing, with advertising, with event planning, and making money off events to make it solvent to continue on. Carrie Bunker is the event planner at Greengate Village, that complex, and she expressed interest, and she's been helping us put a lot of things on together, and it's very synergistic. So what we're seeing right now is that the event is basically come full circle. It's now, with the vision that we all have, it's what we all had intended it for to be from the beginning. That's to promote downtown, to promote businesses, to promote St. George in and of and for St. George, to show off our talent, our ability, our artists. I say it a lot, but we are highly disproportionately blessed with an artistic community that is beyond belief in any art venue you want to talk about. Even in dance, we have international camps that come to this area. It's amazing. So the intention then, moving forward, is to just make it more St. George centric, let everybody know what the name really is, because no one really seems to know that.
What is it again?
Now, officially, it's George Fest. That's what it is. That's what it's known by as the official name is George Fest. That's what it's registered as. We're looking at rebranding it slightly, just so we can have a nice, fresh look and feel with it, and then make a clean cut at the end of the year. I don't know if that's allowed yet, but I'm looking into what our permissions are with that. So you may see some of that coming out real quick. So currently, what the George Fest is needing right now is, from the city, is the continued sponsorship that we received from the city from last year. And that was with the, I didn't bring it in the papers that explained it all, but we've talked about it. The help with policing, with waste service, with, let's see, shutting off the street, the use of the city stage.
I believe everyone got a copy of this.
Yeah, and those are the in-kind,
Yeah.
and I'll be getting a copy of that too. And then with the financial contributions, originally it was $2,300 a month. The other thing we have changed, that I think will help out immensely, is instead of having a monthly, every month event, concentrate on the months that are the most successful, and that is to have 8 months out of the year, March through October. That's when we have a lot of visitors coming to see our area, and we can showcase ourselves a whole lot to them, and that's when it's more profitable. The other 4 months, we just flounder, and any gains we've made are lost. So I think it's a good move, and we should see a lot of excellent work there. Also, two other things of note. Music was a very, very big deal, and I get it, I agree.
You got a little input on that, John?
Just a little.
Maybe?
But what we've done is we've just gone back to where we were to begin with. The gentleman who helped us book a lot of the initial entertainment 2 years ago, George Scott, we brought him back, and he's helped us out, and I like the direction that's going. And then the other one, there was one other important thing. What was it? I forget.
Kids.
Some of the kids' issues.
Yeah, they just didn't spend enough money with us, I guess. I don't know, but they're a lot of fun to have. It's a lot of good energy, fun energy there. It would be much more. I don't know if "contains" the right word, but the way we have the planning right now, it's easier to manage for the different venues. We're going more towards families early evening and more towards adults in the towards the night with the Jazz Garden. Yeah, it's gone through a couple different phases with the different ownerships, if you will. But I think we're on the right track.
So, Council, and I think, John, you've covered it quite well, and we appreciate the responsiveness of your team when you were here at the work meeting recently. So I guess what I propose in There are really two things on our agenda today, if you noticed. There's one that would be, considering the approval of local consent for a single event permit for the George Fest event to occur on the first Friday of each month, March 2018 through October 2018. Correct, John? Correct. So that would be the first thing, and then, that's under staff reports, but as well. But then it's also our approval of the sponsorship for the event. And what we've been doing, as you can see on your sheet there, is $2,300 a month. I'd propose, and I think John is okay with this, that we make that $2,000 a month or $24,000 for the year. We've been slightly higher than that, but I feel like with them, two things. One, with them not doing it for a few of the months, and those are the most challenging months for them financially, I believe. And also just trying to make the best use of public funds as we can and kind of send the message. And John, I think you received this well and have the same goals to reduce the amount that you come to for the city over time. Mm-hmm. So council, does that feel like, as we're going, really at the 6B first, the sponsorship level, does that sound reasonable to you? And if so, then I'd entertain a motion to do that $24,000 for this year.
So moved.
Okay, well, we have a motion by Betty. Do we have a second? And then we could have comments. Second by Joe. Now, comments on the motion?
I just wanted to say that we do have some in kind that we're
We do.
giving as well. So
It's
yeah.
really more than that.
So it
yeah.
is, but that's really great. And I like that. Well, never mind. It's enough.
Okay, any other comments or questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So now, Gary, if we could I just go to the other one, which is under the addendum 6H. I would consider, or we are considering an approval of the local consent. Does that mean, Sean, are we talking about the wine and beer consent when we say local consent there?
Yes, wine and beer, and that's what we need to get on the record here.
Correct.
As you know, previously, they expanded that because the state law would allow them to do that with this license, but you all had specified that it would be beer and wine only.
Correct.
And they had agreed to that, and also that we signed them quarterly, the consents.
Is that what the state wants or what we want?
That's what we want, so that
Okay.
we can make sure that
Everything's okay.
including the proper insurance requirements.
So we're approving it for the year.
Right.
But we're going to sign those quarterly.
So we don't have to bring that before this
Correct.
group again?
That's right, and we would like to get on the record that the applicant agrees that it will be limited to
Wine and beer.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that agreeable, John?
Approved, agreed.
Okay.
And is that definite that it will be at the Green Gate Village
Correct, yes.
and not at Ancestor
Ancestor
Square?
Correct, yeah, we've reconfirmed and have the signature that that's where it is, and they've accepted to have us there again.
And
it
if
has
they were
to
to
be-
ever change
It has
that.
to change, they have to have a new license from the location.
Location.
Because the location is tied to the license. And I think the only other question I had would be is if you're planning on a name change, then this is being issued to
George Fest.
George Fest now, so you change the name, then it requires a new application to the state, so.
Just keep it.
So you
Yeah, so that's.
keep
we're
it through the
aware.
year.
We're
Right,
aware, so-
you want to keep it probably until, or
Yeah.
else
or come back.
go back through the process again,
Yeah.
but do it in a timely enough manner so you don't
Run into a problem.
run into a problem getting your license before your event.
Right, and the two factors basically are one, if we can make a smooth transition of it, and if it's prudent to do so during the event, and the other is if there's just the financing that we can throw it that direction instead of some other direction. So.
Very good. So if there are other comments or questions, I'd entertain a motion.
I just want,
I'm willing to give this a second shot and hope for a great improvement. And if not, I'm not approving this again. So.
I understand.
Okay.
and my comment for just clarification, Mayor, this satisfies any requirements within the proximity of the tabernacle or church
Oh, yes.
facility?
Yeah, it does. We checked that out before, and again, it has to meet all the other requirements in terms of, only those of proper age, and so they have to be, it has to be contained, and they've always done, I think, a very good job of that, John.
They have.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see.
I will make a motion to approve the local consent for a single event permit for wine and beer only for George Fest event to be held the first Friday of each month from March 2018 through October 2018.
Second.
And maybe you could, if it's all right, to deal with what Sean was suggesting, that as part of that motion, that with the agreement of the applicant, somehow, I don't know how you want that in the minutes or part of the motion, that you're making that motion with the understanding that the applicant agrees that it'll be wine and beer only.
I think it's a good point.
Okay, and again, that these will be signed quarterly, even though we're approving it as a council for the year. Is that okay,
That's fine.
Michelle and Betty? All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Thank you.
We'll be there. Thanks, John.
All right, we'll head right into the Planning Commission report for the meeting held January 23rd, 2018.
First item on the Planning Commission report is 4 public hearings to be advertised for February 15th. First one, consider a general plan amendment from OS, Open Space, Low Density Residential, Medium Density Residential, Open Space, Medium Density Residential, Medium High Density Residential, and Industrial on approximately 185.4 acres. Project is called Fossil Hills Future Land Use. Property is generally located northeast and southeast of the intersection of Brigham Road and South River Road. The applicant is Russell Lim and Development Solutions Group. The next item, B, consider a zone change for Fossil Hills storage to change the zoning on 4.23 acres from planned development residential and M1 industrial to planned development commercial to allow development of a self-storage facility. The property is on South River Road, and this is just north of the Sunrock Block plant. Item C, consider a zone change for Boulder Creek Crossing Phase 2 on 4.23 acres from R110 and open space to planned development commercial to accommodate future development of a neighborhood commercial shopping center. The owner is Chefco. And finally, item D, consider a zone change for Boulder Creek Commons Phase 1 on a half acre from planned development commercial to R110 to allow the zoning cleanup to match the southern boundary of this development's proposed plat. Representative is Rosenberg Associates. And again, this is a request to be advertised for February 15th.
Well, Gary, the beat goes on, right?
Oh, I see no problem with having all those meetings at one, on the
Yeah.
items on one agenda.
Yeah, that's a lot. Council, any questions? That's a lot of stuff, but you willing to make a motion to advertise public hearings for those items on February 15th, 2018?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Betty with a second by Ed. I'm hoping all are going to be in favor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. They're dropping like flies, folks. Now, Michelle will be back, and Jimmy should be back any minute, too. Wes?
This is what I'm going to miss most, Mayor, these enlightening presentations of the plats and the preliminary plats, and it just excites me. I'm not sure what I'm going to do to get that
Well,
fulfillment.
listen, if you want to watch it in your sweats, you can watch
Oh,
it
I
on
can.
TV.
Okay,
You know?
yeah, that will fulfill me.
I just want to know, Gary, are you going to get his room tidied up before you go?
The public works director left, but he promised me that his office would be clean and before I left, and that's 1 week. So we'll see. Otherwise, the fire department will be down there taking the matters in their own hands.
Some people just have to have a messy workspace. They do, and they
Some
can't
people's
find
minds
things.
are cluttered, and it's
They
obviously an
can't find
indication they're
things. If you
cluttered.
clean it, they cannot find what they want. I get accused of that often at my home. And so sometimes you just can't clean
I
somebody up.
guarantee you, your thing is not like his. There's no chance.
Actually, when I go into his office looking for him, I slap all the papers and kick him just to see if he might be under one of them. I don't want to mess him up.
We love you, Wes.
Poor
I
Wes.
was a little taller than you would see me.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, item 3 from the Planning Commission report is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 7-lot commercial subdivision called Boulder Creek Commons Phase 1. Site is located at the southeast corner of the intersection of 1450 South and River Road. The number of lots is 7. Zoning is planned development commercial. General plan is commercial. The applicant is Boulder Creek Commons LLC. Representative is Rosenberg Associates. So here is 1450 South here, River Road here. It's these 7 lots here. Really the only change, they've amended the preliminary plat, and I didn't get it updated, but they're actually, this is a 21-inch sewer line that comes down through here. They're actually rerouting it to come down through here and like that, so it doesn't cut across that lot. And so they're actually pushing. This is a right in, right out. No, right in, right out access here that matches the one over here. They're actually requesting to offset them a little bit. We felt like that was okay, but what we're going to require is a median down through River Road. Instead of doing the pork chop sometimes doesn't work very well. And if you have offset intersections now, you may really create some conflict. So we worked with the developer, and we'll probably put a median down River Road through here to then eliminate the need for a pork chop and just allow right in, right out right there. There is a full access that would be allowed here based on the original traffic study. And then you'd have an access here and an access here.
So that right in, right out is across from the tag and go?
Yeah, right now it is, and that was the intention, so that they would line up. They requested to push it down here because of that sewer line. They need to shift all of their buildings down a little bit, and so they need that to come in right here.
Well, in reality, if it's a right in, right out, truly, then it
Doesn't
shouldn't make
matter.
any difference as long as you put the median in.
Right.
Because if
So-
you don't put the median, you'll have people cutting through there and trying to
Kind of like
get
the problem
across
we have
there.
up here at Jiffy Lube.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've worked with them. Obviously, the city will probably have some participation because we're going to probably run it from here down to about here. And so, does that really, are they really required? We'll have to work that through with them. The other condition on this is the original traffic study was done for this north portion, and this portion. And the traffic study said when this develops, which included some of this down here as commercial, indicated that this intersection would fail on its level of service when this develops out. So we'll have to work with them as far as an agreement possibly for their sharing in the cost of a future traffic signal right here at 1490.
And it's not like you would have a traffic light over on River Road, right? You wouldn't have when it's too close to 1450.
Right here, you mean
Mhm.
in full access? No, I think it would be more here.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Questions on this? This is, let's see, preliminary plat, right?
Move to approve the preliminary plat of a 7-lot commercial subdivision for Boulder Creek Commons Phase 1.
Second. Motion by Betty with the second by Joe. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 4B from the Planning Commission report is a request to consider approval of a 24-lot residential subdivision final plat called Desert Cove Phase 1. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located at the intersection of Church Rocks Drive and Rocky Talus Way in the Desert Canyons Development Zone is R110. All aspects of this final plat have been reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. Again, if you look here at your vicinity map, here's the Southern Parkway, here's Desert Canyons Parkway. It's just down here on this other end of this area here that's being developed.
Questions on this final plat?
Motion to approve the final subdivision plat for River Point Way condominiums.
No, it'd be Desert Cove Phase 1. I'm
Desert
sorry.
Cove's Phase 1.
Yes.
You have a motion. Do you have a second? Motion by Michelle, second by Joe, any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 4C from the Planning Commission report is request to consider approval of a 6-lot commercial subdivision final plat called Desert Hills Plaza. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located at the intersection of Brigham Road and Thunder Road at approximately 930 East Brigham Road. Zone is PDC. All aspects of this were reviewed by staff and it meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. So here is lot 1, and then you have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This area here would be common area to this part of the development over here. So we'll have to have a cross-access agreement, obviously, right here and right here, as that is their access there.
Any questions on this, council?
This right here?
You can't say it either.
Spit.
This property right here? Right here. That's that commercial, that townhome project that they're proposing right there.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Nope, you're good.
Okay. Any other questions?
I hope not.
All right. Ready for a motion?
Motion to approve the commercial final plat subdivision for Desert Hills Plaza. Is that the right
Second.
one?
Second.
Yes, it's the right one. Okay, motion by Michelle with a second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 4D from the Planning Commission report is request to consider approval of a 9-lot residential subdivision final plat called the Vistas at Entrada Phase 2. Representative is R&B Surveying, Roger Bundy. Property is located at northerly end of Cougar Rock Circle in the Entrada development. Zone is PDR. All aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. This is it right here. It's kind of up against the hillside. I wish they had a vicinity map. Anyway, this area here will be left undisturbed as required. I believe by hillside is what it was. And that will be left undisturbed, and then it'll be these lots right here with the drainage easement right here that drains down into this channel right here. A little wash there.
Questions, council?
No. Move to approve a 9-lot residential final subdivision plat for the Vistas at Entrada Phase 2.
Second.
Motion by Betty with a second by Michelle. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 4E from the Planning Commission report is request to consider approval of an 18-lot residential subdivision final plat called Cottom Cove Phase 3. Representative is Travis Sanders, Civil Science. Property is located at the easterly end of Talos Way at approximately 1600 East and 2040 South. Zone is R110. All aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff and it meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. Again, this is, here's that Jones Hill that we've talked so much about. It's about location river roads out here. The only thing with this is common area to the subdivision. This is that existing canal that used to provide irrigation water to the Cottom property that the city recently took ownership of. The only thing on this one is the city will, before the plat will record, will be required, or right after would be required to assign ownership of that canal through this portion here to the homeowners association, as irrigation will stop running through here, irrigation water, and it really will be just, and storm runoff, and it really will be just come drainage canal to protect from the hillside for this development.
So then you're saying the property owners would maintain that?
They have a homeowners association, as they have that detention basin right there on River Road
Yeah.
that you've seen, and they have,
Yeah.
within their development, they have some landscaping and the landscaping along River Road. And so this would then fall under that existing homeowners association to keep that maintained and clean.
Thank you.
How long has this been on the planning stages?
It's been
This
a
goes
long
back
time.
A long time, doesn't it?
It has.
It'd sure clean it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any other questions, council? Ready for a motion?
I know, that's why I'm not.
Move to consider an 18-lot residential final subdivision plat for Cottom Cove Phase 3.
Second.
Okay, Betty, you meant move to approve, right? Okay.
Oh, yeah, what did I say?
Consider.
Oh.
That's okay. No problem.
I was considering
Yeah.
moving to approve.
Yeah. All right, so the motion was by Betty, second was by Ed. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 5 from the Planning Commission report is a request to consider approval of a subdivision from 1 lot to 3 lots in a residential zone. It's called the Church of Christ subdivision. Representative is R&B Surveying. Property is located at 1330 West, 750 North. Zone is R110. All aspects of this were reviewed by staff. Right here is that portion that we recently vacated out of the Sundown Estates subdivision. So it'll become part of this property here, which is 1 lot now, and then they'll subdivide it. The church sits here, and they don't use this back parcel, and so they're proposing to create 2 lots here, with this being a flag lot off of that road. Yeah,
Resi-
2 residential lots, yeah. Right now, the property basically sits vacant as far as
Yeah,
as
it
we've
does.
seen.
Any questions?
Motion to approve a subdivision from 1 lot into 3 in a residential zone for the Church of Christ.
Motion by Michelle, second by Joe. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Wes. I think that's it from Planning Commission, right? No way. Good job.
Well, I don't see item 6D on my little bookmark, so item 6D is a recommendation from the staff to sell a surplus property to the adjacent property owner. That's Mr. Ants, Troy Ants. The area is like 34,000. Let's see. Somewhere. I'm going to get on the right one here. Right. You got it. And this is $1.50 a square foot. This is for property over along Santa Clara River, where there's been some encroachment by some of the property owners along that onto city property. And so it's been quite a while negotiating, but finally we were ready to recommend selling that parcel to Mr. Ants.
Was the amount, did you say, Gary? is
$1.50 a square
Smart.
foot, similar to what
Surplus.
we've
Mhm.
sold surplus properties for.
Council, you have this, you should have the aerial
Right.
map, so you can see. Any questions on this?
That's a grand total of 34,930
Yes,
and 50 cents.
that's it.
Ready for a motion if you are, council?
Move to sell surplus city property at a cost of $34,930.50, located at 1747 West Bridge Point Way for $1.50 per square foot.
Second.
Motion by Betty with the second by Michelle. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Gary, could we skip to F? Just give Jimmy every chance we can to get back here.
Sure.
We do have,
That's good too, because I think you might want to take a little bit of a break if you haven't had a break, so that because the next item might take about 4 hours.
okay, so Betty, we have a need to make an appointment to, let's see, was it the Arts Commission or Museum Board?
The Arts Commission.
Arts Commission. Would you like to give us a little bit of information?
Sure. We have, I think, a limit of 11 in our charter, whatever, for our commission, and we are down to about 7. And but we want to make sure that all of the arts disciplines are represented. So we are asking that Jerry Rhodes be appointed to the Arts Commission representing choral music.
She would be great for that, I think.
She's the president.
And she's willing to serve, and so I would entertain a motion to appoint Jerry Rhodes to the City Arts Commission.
So moved.
Motion by Betty with a second by Michelle. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Just note that it's 3 of them. Christina. All right, thank you. And then let's see. I would say, Isaac, I hate to do this, but I think we're just going to take a brief break if we could, and then we'll come back and discuss the consideration of an option agreement to purchase and sale option for Tech Ridge. So we'll just take a brief recess. Let's say 5 minutes, if possible.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anything's possible.
Yeah. Sister Spilka, what was her first name?
I shouldn't have done that. I need to. You just blew up my machine. Yeah. Okay, let's this is the PowerPoint. Right there. Okay.
So I just right there to go right or in my key? Here you go.
You can do, in fact, we can get you just a thing. Let's get you in advance, like a
I read the agenda and I saw
My son-in-law watched that presentation from New Hampshire. He's there flying FedEx. So he just texted me and said, looks like one of the best reality shows I've seen. Watching his well, I've got discipline some of my kids. Not my grandkids, but my kids. Allow me to have
Should we get started with this? He said he'd be back at 7:30. But I think it says he's got 50 questions, so he'll keep them moving for a while. You didn't have any other brilliant ideas on hotels, did you? I'll have Christy look at some more, or I will tonight. Well, I was hoping for that Omni one, but I figured, I told Christy, I'll bet you that one's full, because it's really close. Yep. DuPont Circle. But it looked, wasn't it still kind of pricey? Was that the one, or was it, that was the other one? Isn't it? Did it have availability? Okay. Check, will you? Okay. All right. Let's reconvene, folks. No. Betty's got things to do.
We used to go to midnight
Mm-hmm.
on a lot of occasions,
Mhm.
11:30.
A few of my
midnight.
first ones we did.
Yeah, it was.
We have a couple times. We did in December. Okay. We're back. Gary,
All right,
you got something? We got something else to
I
talk
don't,
about tonight?
I guess just some minor issue.
Some
I guess.
minor thing.
I think that the next item is consider a request for purchase and option agreement for Tech Ridge. You know, if I can reminisce a little bit, the airport and the opportunity to be involved in moving the airport. But you know, one of the even getting new flights and a bigger airport and a nicer airport and everything else. What it created, though, was an opportunity that the city would not have had if we didn't take the initiative to build a new airport. Simply for the reason, if you think about it, with SkyWest changing the planes, and we didn't have enough room to move the airport, we would have turned that property into basically a GA airport. And you know, and then it would be that way forever, and you never would have had anything different than that. And so by being able to maneuver and to build and to create the new airport site, even though people say it's too far out of town and all the rest of that stuff, the one thing it created was an opportunity for that, probably the most prominent piece of property left in the city at that airport site. And so it's been interesting we've been blessed a few times, and maybe one of them was, for us being selfish, the downturn and the state being a little bit overreaching in their requests, and us deciding that we wanted to keep that property up there rather than selling it to the state. And
State should have bought it.
They should have bought it, but they wanted to charge us $6 million extra for that property, and we decided we'd had enough, and so we figured out a way to creatively finance the money we needed to shortfall for the cash flow situation to build a new airport. But what all that does is it brings us to this day today, where deciding what the future of Tech Ridge is and what that future of that airport Mesa will be, and so it's probably I think one of the opportunities that this mayor and council and staff will have a chance to make a contribution that we felt by many years down the road by our future residents and even our current residents. And so it's been a great opportunity. It's been very difficult, and we're not through it yet, but to get to this point, I think it's an incredible opportunity. And so I'll also have more comments maybe in a few minutes, but we'd like to, if it's all right, turn some time to Isaac Barlow, who's the managing partner, I believe, of Tech Ridge.
LLC.
At least he's LLC. He's at least the ones that we've dealt with, and to kind of share maybe his vision, because, you know, and I've said this to Isaac before, in all the time I've been here, I don't believe I've ever seen the depth of work and bringing together the teams to put together the uses and what they're proposing at that airport. And I know it's cost them a lot of money to get to this point from their planning standpoint, but they've done a significant amount of planning, looked at it from all angles, and I think I'd like him, if he would, to maybe show you. Now, you've seen it, but maybe the public hasn't seen it to the extent that you have, but to kind of see what his vision up there is, which we've all, at least staff-wise, we've all kind of grasped on and share that vision. So I took long enough that Jimmy got back. Mayor, how was that?
Way to go.
You
Perfect,
told me,
Gary.
You told me just to keep talking until that happened. So.
Thank you. It's been a half an hour. No.
You had to listen to me for half an hour. That's too bad. So anyway, Isaac, if that's all right, Mayor, is that how you'd like to handle it? Okay.
Well, thank you, Gary. Appreciate that introduction. Yeah, I guess the vision of Tech Ridge for us was a vision in the technology community. As we're building a tech company down here, we've always kind of wondered, what are we going to do to stay here? You know, is there really going to be an environment that we can actually build and grow and thrive? And with the kind of progress that we've made and success we've made with Busy Busy, I'm also the CEO of a technology company, Busy Busy. Then we've looked at that quite a bit, and we love St. George, we love the area, we love living here, and we love working here, but we have always wondered how we're going to stay here. So to do that, we really have to be able to attract and retain the top talent that we have, and to create an environment to do that. So this, to us, was kind of a vision that we had been contemplating quite a few years ago, maybe as many as 5 or 6 years ago, and myself and Dr. Eric Pedersen at the college had talked about it quite a few times. So our vision included a live, work, play environment where we have an urban environment that's really just an attractive place for people to work and hang out in a creative place so that they can thrive. So when the city came to us and started talking about your vision for Tech Ridge, it was just an ideal fit. It was just amazing to have that kind of fit. And by us working with and talking to other technology companies like Printer Logic, we were able to basically say, hey, instead of this being a vision that's clear out in the future, we could bring that vision to today. So the goal of Tech Ridge is really to create an environment that is just, best way I could put it from a technology phrase is it has a great user experience. It has a great experience of someone being there. It will be the best place to be, you know, regardless of whether you're living there, working there, eating. So we have a vision to have, you know, condos, apartments, restaurants, retail, offices, hotel, all combined in an area that just allows people to thrive. And then with the unique benefit of the property of Tech Ridge, and what I mean by that is the mesa, just the unbelievable views that are up on that mesa, we were able to bring in some world-class land planners and designers that said, hey, we're going to look at this like beachfront property, and so we're going to design it so that everybody's got that ability to walk around the beach or walk around the view corridor and be able to see the great views the city of St. George has to offer. And so we intertwined a plan to just make it so that the park worked well together. And you know, honestly, to me, that made the vision even better than we'd hoped for. When we were originally considering a live, work, play environment, we never considered having that advantage. So that's a huge advantage in my opinion. So to give kind of to flash forward a little bit to a drawing that I know a lot of you have seen and a lot of the city has seen. We'll kind of looking at the airport as it is now, the airport property, and then to look at the drawing that we had planned out. We basically made a plan to have the development of the 155 acres, have a high density development, and then interweave into it with the ridge line approximately 60 acres of park property and developed property. And so again, to me, this is just a wonderful experience. You know, it's an activity-centric community where you can get up. I think it ends up being about a 3.5 mile perimeter around the trail of the property, or 3.5 mile trail around the perimeter of the property. So, you know, if you think of the average walk or jog, that's just about perfect for a lot of different age groups. So anyways, as a lot of you probably know, we're trying to build it out, and in building a live, work, play environment, you have to combine both the commercial, retail, and the residential products in this environment. And the land planners we got in, the world-class land planners, they have designed I apologize, I don't have the projects to reference, which I know they were in the submittal, but they've designed some of the most world-class projects in the nation and in the world. And they explained to me, because originally we thought, oh, this needs to be primarily business. They said, if you don't have residential, if you don't have a residential mix, this place goes dead at night, and then it becomes just a disaster. So you've got to mix it all together. So anyways, as you look over this property, there's basically the office park primarily adjacent to DXATC and to the west of DXATC. Some residential planned to the north of that office park, and then residential mixed in as we go to the south. And then 3 primary retail centers, one right at the intersection that's adjacent to DXATC and the north property where all 3 of those parcels intersect. The other about center of the property, heading to the south, is where you can see kind of that half moon shaped road.
Right on that. Isn't there a pointer right there that's used on that?
This pointer?
There you go.
Yeah.
Mouse or-
Okay.
That works too.
Oh, this works.
Yeah, no, that works.
This works good too. Oh, if you do the mouse? Okay, so we have basically the 3 retail points was a retail area here, and we wanted each retail area to connect to the park, to connect to the side. A major retail area here that also connects in, and then a major retail area here that we intended to have most of the restaurants, and the higher end restaurants or noble restaurants, especially because bringing the road and access way through here, thought that would be a better chance for them to thrive. So this is a proposal that was accepted by the city and awarded to Tech Ridge. And today what we want to talk about is just, we're trying to take steps forward right now. One of the things that we have to capitalize on is a window of opportunity where we've got the tech community, and specifically Busy and Printer Logic, willing to go up there and be the catalyst and the anchor tenants to get started. We're really trying to accommodate and get this property ready in time for them. So what we've done is proposed to the city that we purchase a portion of the project right now while we continue to work through the development agreement that's, has a lot of complexities that we have to keep working through. So I'm going to show you just kind of a focal point on some of those parcels that we're talking about. So again, our view for this project has not changed, but we want to get some things in motion so we can capitalize on that window of opportunity, and we think that's a very key opportunity. And I know for the city, it's a lot to do with the high-paying jobs as well, and for the project, those high-paying jobs matter just as much. So as you go through the property, this is basically the parcels, with the blue being the DXATC, and all the orange being the remainder of the property, the 155 acres plus the additional 5.5 trailhead property that we have in the award. What we want to do right now is have the purchase agreement to take down the first 3 properties, which is the North Phase 1A, that's approximately this boundary, North Phase 1B, that has approximately that boundary, and then the trailhead property up to the northwest portion of the project. And so we want to get started on those properties, so that this is the purchase agreement to get those properties sold to us and get moving on it. The DXATC is, of course, got their property, and then as we move in, of course, the south phase our option to purchase that will be subject to finishing the development agreement that we're in process of, and I believe we have to get that complete by the end of June. And so today, what I want to show you is the first parcel that we want to get in place to get the tech companies up there. So as you can see on the overlay, we came in pretty close to exactly what we had planned with the park improvements. The only major difference we have right now is we've moved the open parking area that we had further to the north. We moved more adjacent to the PrinterLogic buildings for their benefit. And our goal here, if we can make it work with the city working together, is that this parking area, and I want to state that it's a goal because we need to be able to make it work together. This parking area is kind of a step 1 to a step 2. We would like to actually eventually put a building in place of this parking area if we can feasibly work out parking structure and so forth to replace it. So this is a get things moving kind of position on this. In addition to this purchase agreement, or within this purchase agreement, we've got to do some work on the property to bring it up to the appraised value. And actually, let me back up and just say, this is probably one of the important things is, when you look at this, part of what we're building here is the pavilion, which is one of the best showpieces, I guess, on the property. And so this is the rendering of what the pavilion is intended to look like. This rendering of PrinterLogic's building is close, but not exactly what they are working on. They're working on their own designs, but this is the rendering that we had included in the packet. And so we are going to go ahead with this project and build this pavilion within the first 4 years. We'd like to see it built a lot sooner than that, but we want to give ourselves some time on the commitment. In addition to that, we have to do some demolition on the property, which we're going to do to get the property up to ready to develop, which is basically remove the obstructions of the property, the runway, the different concrete slabs, and some of the small buildings. And we're planning on preserving, I think this is maybe the wrong map, I apologize. There's another map in the exhibits that shows we're planning on preserving the 2 major airport hangars for now, until we work out the lease agreements with the occupants of them, and of course the city usage. Then also preserving just an access trail from the south to the north property so that it can be used during construction and potentially for access as we're planning to construct and bring those roads into place on the south end. And these are the roads I'm referring to, as we work out the agreements with the city and with the other property owners.
That's it? Pretty good there.
That's
I
great.
think that was good. I think it's important, Mayor and Council, that maybe those that haven't been involved in the process, the public or whatever, the city, realizing the importance of this particular property, commissioned a study done by an independent, well-renowned national firm to look at the possible uses of this property and what we could feasibly expect to occur and the time periods involved with that. And if you remember that report, it said that there was only so much that could be absorbed in this community at our size, and so we needed to take a long-range approach to what we want to do up there. And so I think that, you know, there might be some discussion as far as why would you tie the entire parcel up and not allow, you know, others to maybe be involved in it. But I think you have to keep in mind the 20-year, 30-year horizon development. I'm sure they don't want to see it that long, but that report indicated that the absorption rates for a community our size, unless something really changes, is going to take a longer period of time. And so I think when we went out, and we went out for proposals, we advertised, we requested development companies from all over the West. We did our due diligence to see who was interested in possibly being a partner with the city and going forward with this critical infrastructure and critical development. We received 2 responses, and then you met with I think we had a team that met with those and made a committee and made a recommendation to the council. The thing that was, to me, most telling in that whole process was the vision, because it would be easy to parcel this up and just sell it. And then what do you have? You know, you could have all residential up there. You could have a combination of types of uses. But the thing that stuck out to me and made it important to me was that these guys are willing to come to the table with a vision of long term. And interesting to me that in their proposal, and we talk about it a little bit later maybe, but the idea of the parks, and that parks, and I personally have known this all along and never had anybody really validate it, but the value of parks to a community is hard to define in a dollar amount. However, they're experts, and I guess anybody outside your own community is an expert, okay? But the ones that came in to visit about this, their whole philosophy was, if you build the park, that the adjacent property values go up, that there's a tangible economic value to creating open space and parks for the public and the community, as well as the people that are working there. And so, to me, this proposal met all those, those requirements of saying a long-term vision and building it so it all fit together. Because if you parcel it out, it won't fit, because you have connections and you have the trails and you have the roads and you have all that stuff. And so you almost have to have faith in each other to say that this is a long journey, and and take those steps. And I think Isaac's found out that we can't work very fast as a city sometimes with the pressures and the public, making sure that we're looking for every, making sure that the public's interest is preserved. And I can honestly say in this particular situation, I believe we've been very transparent in the notice for opportunities for people to propose. We've been diligent, I believe, in trying to create a long-term vision along with what unfortunately they paid for all of it, and they haven't even got the property yet to do the vision, which is that's usually backwards. I mean, that is backwards. It's usually a different way. Tie up the property and then you do all that planning. But in this particular case, their proposal takes it from what we would have done anyway. If we didn't have a buyer for that property up there, we would have carved off the north end where all the major utilities are at, and we would have sold it. And we would have sold it to somebody, hopefully to build what he's talking about building in the first phase. And then take that as it goes to the south and locking them all up with the parks, with the retail, with the live, work, play. Anywhere you go, that's the trend. Whether it's a trend forever or not, I don't know. But these folks that, I'm going to have to be very careful how I say that. They're an interesting group. Yeah, I don't care anymore. Fire me. But they're an interesting group, and we went to Denver, and I'm sorry to belabor this, but I feel a little passionate about this program. We went to Denver, the mayor and I, and I think it wasn't, and then we had Mark, I think, and a few other. I think you guys went with us. We looked at Denver and their projects, and every single time they said a couple of things that I'll always remember. Number one, these people collaborate. And I don't quite understand that, I guess. But they have to play ping pong, or they do a climbing wall, or they do recreate. And this guy from this business over here, he talks to this guy over here, and this guy's working on a project that this guy already did, and so they talk together, and it just saves him a month's worth of work or whatever. And so they have these ideas that they're thinking, and they have to incubate those thoughts when they're doing this IT work. And so that was the first thing that I understand why you go into those businesses there, and they've got these rec rooms and all this stuff. And you see people out there, in the middle of the day doing that stuff. It's kind of interesting.
Gary told him to get back to work.
I did, and they didn't understand. They said we were working or something.
Yeah.
But the second thing,
Gary, it's the new golf.
That's probably
You
right.
used to do it on the golf course.
I can relate to that. But the second thing I learned was that if you're a techie, if you want to call them that, or somebody involved in this type of a program, it's a critical mass issue. And what every person has told me this, that, and even here or outside of this, that those guys are not looking for their first job. They're looking for what their second or third job may be. And so if they move their family here and take that first job and it doesn't work out, they're not going to come with that talent that Isaac's talking about unless they know that doesn't work out, that there's a second or a third or other companies that they can then move into. And it's not only that they want to live in this beautiful area that we have, but they've got to have that mass, that critical mass. And that's what this is about, in my mind, is to try to create, at least this first phase, is that critical mass with those amenities that bring those. And I know the mayor has said this a lot, and I've seen it over the years, and I've unfortunately never been able to make it work. But we're tired of being down here on the bottom end of the pay scale. And right now we are, if you do an average. And a lot of that has to do with who you talk to and who compares that, because of the retired folks and that. But wouldn't it be nice to have those Dixie State University folks that are graduating from those programs and have an opportunity to have a high-paying job? I know in 1970, when I graduated from high school, I had nowhere to go. I had to leave this community because there were no jobs. And so if we can do anything to encourage those higher paying jobs that make it affordable for families to live and work and play in our community and stay here, then they become a vibrant part of the fabric of our community. And so that's what's kind of, driven me to this kind of a concept. And plus the other thing I wanted to mention is that that's downtown. You can couch it any other way you want to couch it, but that is downtown St. George. And the effect, if they are successful, the effect of that on the old parts of town that can be channeled back and improvements made and bringing families back and folks downtown to make that even more vibrant than what it is right now, that's just a winner for us that we don't have to really do anything about. So, if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of it with regard to the purchase agreement, Sean has done a great job in crafting it, because this is a difficult project. We don't see very many of these types of things like this, and worked with their attorneys and that. But basically, I boil it down to this. The major work is the development agreement. And you have until June to do the development agreement, which will dictate the densities, will dictate all the weeds, or getting the weeds out of the deal and getting a formal agreement. If that doesn't work and you can't agree on all the rest of this stuff, then what do you have? You have a high-tech park on the north 10 acres of that you're probably that you want to build anyway. So to me, there's no real risk to the city to go forward with this concept, understanding that we're looking at a 20 or a 25-year plan for probably the most prominent piece of property left in St. George. And so, I commend Isaac and his team to want to stay here, to develop talent here, and to make a success of that. They'll have their own money tied up in this, and so they're not like somebody coming from New York or wherever else and then building the thing and leaving. They want to live here. That's why they have proposed to be involved with this. And so I think we talked about this in a work meeting. We've got circulated copies of that. We can be happy to answer any questions between Sean and I to try to help you. But basically, I think it's a great deal for the city and for the residents and for the community. It's my editorial comment. Sorry I took so long.
No, it's a good one. I think it's important, and you hit all the key points. And I think the main key point is we made a decision when we started down this path that we weren't going to just sell it off to the highest bidder. This is, I think, the highest and best use, is to put it to work, literally, to create jobs and higher wage jobs. And that's what we set out to do, and here we have an opportunity to get going on it. We were all sent a draft copy of the purchase agreement by Sean last night, I believe it was, Sean. So if you've had a chance to look at it, if you have any questions, happy to do that, and happy to, if not, happy to entertain a motion. So,
Mayor, really quick, as we've been looking at this parcel over the years, and we've been worrying about how to do this and do it right, and we've been a little worried about making sure we don't, mess up such a great piece of property. We've kind of had a little bit of a vision. We didn't know where it would all go. These guys, I'm just going to say it right out there, nailed it.
They did.
And Gary said that in a lot more words, but they nailed it. They brought not only the tangible stuff, but they have the intangible, which is they have a vested interest and they have a respect for our community in the way that they planned it, and they're paying what we always talk about. They're trying to take what's good in our community and maintain it and promote it up on that piece as well. They're not coming in saying we want to change the face of St. George. They want to come in and build on the face of St. George and promote what's already here and what's already good. And from the get-go, they have been doing that on their own dime without even owning the property. This phasing is the only way to make this work the way they're trying. They would be, I'm not going to say stupid, but they would be that if they tried, it would be a real estate deal. They would have to start selling real estate to the highest bidder and build, regardless of what it is. We're selling this property, and we're getting kind of what we wanted with people who have a vested interest in that. And I have been impressed all the way through. I haven't said that out loud too much because I didn't want to give away the farm, but that they've done their homework. And I'm excited about what's going to happen here. And it is a long-term project, and this is the way to do it in phasing. And I'm glad they're willing to, they're staking their fortunes on it, as far as I can tell.
Well, and it's really best case scenario, right?
Right.
Vested interest, because Isaac's company's going to be there, and Ryan's company's going to be there, and that's going to draw the critical mass Gary was talking about. Anyway, how lucky can you get to have vested interest?
Right. Unforeseen things can happen, but the way we're phasing this, again, we're going to be okay, and we have to realize that as we do this, is that there's a long-term goal here, and it's going to take some time.
And we can't lose the opportunity to not get it going right away.
It's interesting that we're going to give them all the credit, but I want to tell you something. I wish Van was here tonight, but I asked our people, our staffs and the planners, and to put together, and I think you've seen that video.
A little video, yeah.
And I know you've seen that video. So here you bring all those folks that come in with their expertise from there. That little video that we did is almost exactly what they're ending up with. From a global view, the trails, the people walking and jogging, and the open spaces and everything else. I think so.
I almost didn't think it was for real, because I love those drawings in that video. And then when you showed us what he had, I thought, somebody knew about this or something. It's called the Dixie Spirit. It's really in the project.
Ed?
Well, Mayor, I think Gary started this out to really describe the efforts being made, because this is far more than just an economic development project, and I think everybody's expounded on that. But all of the positive things that have been said on what this project will bring to the city, I just want, and I think it's important for the public to know that we've exhausted all efforts as far as meeting our fiduciary responsibilities, because this is a lot of money. This land and this property belongs to the citizens of St. George. And looking at that, tonight the city sold a piece of property at $1.50 a square foot. We know that the city has sold some other property for $15 a square foot. And we know from what Isaac's put together here on the price that the assessor has placed on this particular sale, came down to $3.64 a square foot, and down to $3.54 on the other trail property. But when you look at all of those things and you say, how did this come about, and how does this work out? Well, due diligence has been applied, the values and the assessments have been explained, and I want to thank Gary for taking the time to respond to me and my many questions. I am satisfied that this is a good project, and it's a good investment, not only for Isaac's company and this particular group, but it's good for the citizens of St. George. And if we do that and keep that in mind, all of these things that we talked about, some of these details, Isaac, that you're going to come out, because some of your payments that you're going to make to the citizens in St. George will be in cash, but there'll also be in-kind considerations. And some of those in-kind considerations that the public needs to know about, you're going to have that road, because you're going to do the pavilion that you mentioned within 4 years, but you also are going to be addressing the road within that, at the end of that 4-year period. So the public needs to know that. And Gary touched a little bit on the parks and the values, and those parks will eventually come back and be dedicated to the city of St. George. So in my summation of all of this, are you catching this, Jimmy? Are you okay? My summation.
Checking your math.
Okay. So my summation in all of this is that I feel comfortable with this. This is a big project. We talked about all the projects that Gary's been involved in throughout his career here, and this is nothing. It's not a small deal. This is a big deal, and I want to show my personal appreciation for all that he's done, putting this package together, and the staff that's helped him to accomplish this. And it's all come together, so I just wanted to, as Michelle always says, I'll give you my 2 cents worth, and I gave you a nickel's worth, Michelle. Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Any other questions or comments?
Well, just
Gary?
one comment about the interesting proposal. You probably will never see this again, but they're actually going to pay us for the park, and then they're going to improve the park, and then they're going to give it back to you. So, you know, when you look at the purchase price and you say, well, what was the value worth? You know, to me, there are so many values that you have to add to that value of $160,000 an acre, which is an appraised value by a certified appraiser. But you got to add in there, add the property they're giving back to you. They're giving you back basically 60 acres of $160,000 property. Then they're going to spend $20 million building the parks. And so when you look at all that together and look at the price per acre, it makes a huge difference in saying, well, let's just build apartments or let's just build something out. But you can't value the public's being able to go up on those trails and go up on those parks. What value do you place on that? We build them all over town. This would be an incredible legacy for our public to go up there and share in the vision of the views and all that, plus the value that's doing to your downtown. I mean, how do you put a price on that? And so when you add all those things up with their proposal, I think that it's a very good product for a very fair price.
Yeah, and important to note on that this is all done by a development agreement that will be done. So
by the end of June.
Yeah, and we're saying, hey, here's the property, go ahead and buy it, and this is what you got to give us. And this is what you got, this is what we're going to have when we're done, and this is what you're going to build, and all those things are by contract in there. So it is a great deal, and I'm satisfied that we've talked about this, we've gone over this, we've got experts like Sean making sure that we're covered, and We appreciate his work, appreciate the staff and all their work. There's a lot of people that put a lot of work into this, so.
Let me just make one other comment, Mayor. I apologize. You know, when everybody might want to compare this to the deal that we did before when we sold this property when we were building the airport, that proposal from Anderson Development was for 272 acres. If you divide 272 acres into the purchase price, it's $161,506.
Almost identical.
And so we're $1,500 difference. Now you remember that we went through a depression, so the values are just barely getting back up to where they were pre that. So the reason that the amount was significantly higher was they were taking a lot more property. Now, you know, here you're getting per acre basically the same, but you're getting the property, half the property back plus the improvements on it. So you're really, I think, making a great use of that property from even a financial standpoint.
I'm really excited. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion if we can. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve this agreement. Purchase agreement with Tech Ridge.
Second.
Purchase and option.
And option.
Second.
Okay, we have a
Second,
motion by Jimmy and several seconds, but we'll give it to Michelle. And
give it to all of us.
Give it to all of you. See that,
them all
that's
down.
on the record. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, if you dare, say nay. Oh, just kidding. That was unanimous. Isaac, thank you, congratulations, and to your team as well. And we look forward to working with you beginning immediately on zoning and the development agreement.
Thank you. I just really appreciate all the efforts here.
Thank you.
so much, everyone.
Thank you. This is going to be wonderful. One of the things that, you know, again, Tech, with Dixie Tech up there, and, you know, that was 30 acres that, you know, would have gone to Anderson as well. Think about that and fitting in with what Isaac and his group are going to do.
And you know, Mayor, we didn't touch on this, but that sales price, each year after 2019, we'll get a 2%. It escalates by 2%.
That's right.
And so we didn't even mention that, so this is great.
Okay, so folks, we do need I believe, a brief closed meeting for potential litigation. It was not Gary's request. Let it be shown. And so can we have a motion to that
Motion
effect?
to adjourn to a brief closed meeting to discuss
litigation.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, reluctant though it may be, and a second by Michelle. All in favor, starting with Joe, say aye.
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 Okay. Then, there we go. Aye. There's 6 or 7 ayes. Motion carries. Let's go right in there so we can get started and get finished.